Vegan Metro in the house.
Hey, everybody. Oh, yeah.
What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? It's 420 in Los Angeles. This is DC 420
But I
LA
think
Live.
in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state. I think it's up to the states, yeah. I'm a states person. I think it should be up to the states, absolutely. You know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Well, Beauregard, the good people on cable news are going to pot as Ganja Gupta and Fox and the Fiendish Five go head to head. You're up, neoliberal MSNBC. Michigan's going to vote on recreational cannabis this year. Or will they? Vermont's thinking about it. It's a green train. Hopefully it's not a wreck. This is DC 420 LA.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
It is proven that pot makes you dumb.
Did you smoke pot?
Dope's smoking dope.
The problem you see with pot is that it's really bad for you.
Pot is a gateway drug to these other drugs.
Why would increasing the use of marijuana, which it does among young people when you legalize it, why would that be good for society?
First of all, the American people don't favor this. Second of all, politically, it's idiotic.
People take a single hit from vaporizing this stuff, and they're completely blitzed.
If you smoke pot regularly, there's some studies that show, you're 8 times more likely to kill yourself.
And I know a lot of the kids, they've tried pot, and I'm not in favor of it.
Smoke the pot.
Very illegal activity. This is the gateway drug.
Really getting people blasted and blitzed.
There's studies that show that smoking marijuana makes people slower.
It's leading to hallucinations, it's leading to bizarre behavior, and it's very much increasing the risk of addiction and being trapped by this drug.
About 6 times more likely to be schizophrenic if you smoke pot regularly.
More people are in treatment for marijuana than all other illegal drugs combined.
Edibles possibly the most dangerous because you have no idea what you're getting and when it's going to hit.
Really gets people loaded.
63% of the women surveyed in this California survey were smoking pot every day.
Every day.
You know, people are wondering, does this guy smoke weed every day?
Smoke weed every day.
A J's a joint, right?
Hot smokers.
Most of these people, I assume, are unemployed. Is that correct?
Yes, or they're working odd jobs for minimum wage.
And how do they get the money to buy the marijuana?
Reefer.
Edibles are remarkable because people eat a small amount, don't feel the effect because it's taken orally, so they eat some more. Then they have the whole candy bar. And an hour later, suddenly hits them hard, and they are basically just frightened.
Wrecking the minds of young people.
With legalization in 2 states and decriminalization in others, many more stoned people on the road.
She's in a car that's filled with marijuana smoke.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
Well, we're getting potted up on weed right now.
I'm not getting behind the wheel. But I could.
What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? I'm Dave Conan. This is indeed DC 420, the Week in Weed. Welcome, everybody. Another big Sunday here in California, the cannabis capital of the world. Welcome, everybody. This is, of course, DC 420 LA, the Week in Weed, the show where we spark up, talk about marijuana in the mainstream media, the cannabis cures and politics of pot, every week here on YouTube and various other platforms, which I will get into. But I must, of course, introduce that when I say we, I mean my partner in life and in cannabis and in everything for a wonderful amount of time, my love. It's been a wonderful 25 years.
Holy
a quarter
shit.
Century. Holy
moly.
Coach Chella.
Hey, hi.
Hey, hi. We are Haiti Heidi Ho. Here on DC 420 LA. Welcome everybody to the show. Of course, all the regulars starting to jump into the chat.
Hi, y'all.
Vegan Metro, Zox, Vox back
Hey,
in
everybody.
back in the house.
Nice
We've
to see
got straight out of NPR over on Twitch.
Real Jingy.
Real Jingy is in the house first in. I think we're going to get Facebook chats in here today. The Restream chat seems to be working pretty good. We're streaming over there on D-Live for the Steam It community. Did I say Vegan Metro? I meant it if I did not. Welcome, Vegan Metro. Also, right in there, he's smoking a roach. He's going to let us know what strain it is in a couple of minutes. We, of course, are having some lovely joints from ITSG Organic. What was the house weed we got this week, babe? Do you know what strain that was?
Ooh.
So we're smoking mystery weed as well.
House weed.
House weed. We're smoking mystery weed as well, vegan. So we're in the Vegan Metro. We're in the same.
But we also
boat.
have a little bit of wedding cake. We have a gram.
Wedding cake right now is our
gram
favorite
of wedding
strain.
cake. Yeah.
And we're lucky we have Chella in the house today, folks. Welcome on Periscope also if you're
Glad
joining
to be
in.
here.
We get Dr. Fish joins in on Periscope usually because he's busy running around making things happen. And of course, it looks like Phil Britton over there at Pirate Radio in Colorado. He's on the road, taking it mobile.
On the road.
Because
on the run, on the road.
On the road, the run, whatever you want to call
Same
it.
smell.
If you were not in Colorado, you could park a boat off, ship offshore and do it old school, pirate radio school back in the 60s. But hey, you're in Colorado, you stay on the road, get in an RV, and it looks like that's what he's doing with pirate radio, whatever frequency we're going out over in 4 square miles, whatever 100 watts he's reaching, broadcasting out over to freedom-loving people all over across Colorado, trying to get the message out about cannabis. This is indeed a medical and recreational cannabis show. You should be of age, depending upon your state of viewing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, get permission and come on back.
Yeah.
This is, cannabis is a medicinal plant, also used for recreation, because when you recreate, you medicate.
It's true.
And that's the truth of it. And we are going to medicate a little more. We'd like to start with some edibles. Now, you've done some drops.
I did some Jack the Ripper.
You've got some
sativa.
ITSG, Jack the Ripper, sativa drops.
Sativa
Those
drops
are always
going
fun.
on.
I blue dreamed a little earlier. But I'm going to do a chocolate chip cookie. Which
I
I'm
did too
surprised
this morning.
you got any back. Now, you went on a little jaunt this
The
weekend.
girls were afraid of the
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not afraid of the edibles.
And I think one girl had one, and it made her sleepy, which I'm always afraid of. But I think I just have a tolerance for them now. So I was able to I actually had 2 this morning.
Let us know how the sound is, folks. I'm trying some new microphones. Chella's got a lav on right now. We're seeing how that sounds.
May I please have the lighter, babe?
Oh, you may.
Thank
Let me,
you.
I'm going to...
So yeah, various platforms. Weed TV.
Oh my God. I always forget.
Facebook.
Wow, how can I always forget? Weed TV. Weed TV might be, that and D-Live
Weed
might,
TV is
might be the
the
only
platform.
place we end up being, actually. They've got so many shows going over on there now.
Well, I appreciate
We were their
what they're
first
doing.
live broadcast. I really do too. And if YouTube and Facebook, they're shutting down weed tubers right and left. The growers, anybody that's doing anything online that looks like that, can possibly be interpreted as dangerous or could cause harm. So I guess they're putting in that category growing,
Chauncey
teaching people how to
Jenkins
grow.
from Ohio.
Chauncey.
Jocelyn Russell.
From Nevada.
Nice.
Welcome, everybody. Share the show, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, ring the bell, follow, re-steam, thumbs up.
things.
Do whatever you do on whatever platform. You can follow us on all of the socials, at DC420LA, all the social diseases, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, until they shut us all down, and, of course, YouTube. We try to stay informational. This is an educational show. We are trying to normalize and mainstream cannabis use.
That's true.
Don't get more vanilla than we here at DC420
We're pretty vanilla.
LA.
Pretty vanilla.
Long-time
we have
cannabis users.
unconventional jobs.
We do. We have unconventional
But we're
jobs.
pretty vanilla other than that.
And we are currently unemployed, as implied by that by that video. But that's the way it is in the entertainment.
Still
business,
getting
right?
high.
Still getting high. Still finding our weed.
Thank you so much. Somehow, some way.
Although we have put on hold our $100 hauls for the moment.
Yeah, there's no hauls happening. Sorry,
no hauls
y'all.
for the moment. That's the thing. When people look at it's tough being a white guy these days. People look at you, they automatically assume that I'm a rich, entitled asshole, and I am not rich.
That's true.
So let's just get that straight. So let's move on. Welcome
Excuse me,
everybody.
my
Do whatever
God.
you got to do to share this information. That's great. A little bit of cough is good on a marijuana show as we enjoy our joints from ITSG.
I ate all kinds of crazy things this weekend, and I'm
sure
going to
you
be
did.
a little
gluten.
I'm
And
going to
dairy.
be all phlegmy.
I'm betting you weren't vegan this weekend, right?
I wasn't vegan. I had cheese.
Oh my God! And you had some champagne too.
I had some champagne. I had a little wine. But
Peer pressure's tough, man. And it's tough out there trying to be social. We're starting to get social again, and nobody caters to the cannabis users. You know,
nobody.
You've got people talking about it in other states, and Nevada probably will be the first ones. There's underground places, but hey, I'd like to go in. I'd like to do some vaping.
I'd like my straight-laced friends to be able to go in too, and not feel like they're doing something crazy, fucking that'll get their licenses pulled and things.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. So times they are a changing, which is part of our national block today. Of course. Cable news going to pot. We're going to be competing, and we may end a little early. We'll see. But we're going to be competing a little bit with Sanjay Ganja Gupta on CNN. Weed 4 tonight, folks, at 8 o'clock Eastern. You'll catch the replay. You don't need to jump over. A lot of folks don't have CNN. I would consider just streaming the bugger, but Viacom loves to shut down my live stream if I try that with CNN stuff.
Which is lame.
So that's how I've been hit every single time trying to get out Bernie information or whatever else we're trying to get out. They don't like it. So that's fine. I get it. But I'm not going to try it. I'm even a little leery about playing the promos, but I think we'll be okay because we are educational. This is all fair use. This is for commentary and critique. So,
let's
do
critique.
What you will. Let's critique, shall we, as we take our edibles and we start our joints and we welcome everybody to the show. This is DC 420 LA, the Week in Weed. And let's get right into it, shall we? That, of course, was a little video that came out by Medium Matters today, or this week, on the craziness of marijuana and Fox News. But you'd be surprised, and many were in the progressive media, particularly secular talk. I think it was secular. Who was it? Kyle Kalinske, which is his show. His show, he picked up on this clip from Fox, the Five, the Fiendish Five. And you know who they are. If you don't know who they are, because I'm still a cable news junkie. We're working on that. As soon as the discount is done with, we're basta.
Really? When's that?
I don't know. But as soon as we're not getting our discount anymore, I'm going to follow the steps of Lauren Steiner and say, yeah, screw you guys. So I'm preparing myself for that. So we will count on other folks on YouTube. Everybody, they put it all up on YouTube anyway.
Yes, they do.
All of the clips. So you don't need to watch it live. You can stick with us. But this week, of course, so we got Sanjay Gupta coming on at CNN with Weed 4. He's going to talk about how it can solve the opioid crisis. Now, I've learned some things already from not watching that. I haven't even watched the Weed 4. Of course, seen all the other three. And it's been a pot for peace, Alex. Hey, buddy. It's been an evolution of the Gupta. And
everybody's evolving.
Everybody's evolving.
Darwin would be so proud.
Everybody comes to cannabis, be it the cash or the cures. Everybody gets involved. And it looks like maybe Sanjay might be a little bit of both. But I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him for coming out and really confronting Jeff Sessions. So maybe that's doing, maybe that's getting Jeffrey, Beauregard a little melting a little bit. So let's just, I'm going to watch this clip. Let's watch this clip from the Fox 5 after we saw that montage over the years and recent clips really of Fox and their portrayal of marijuana, if you will.
Their reefer madness.
Their reefer madness. The current, we're going to get into some of this cannabis legislation and really the idea of what now we really need to start talking about what happens if cannabis gets legalized on a federal level. I don't think I ever thought we'd actually be talking about this.
Like so soon.
Even within the last 6 months.
It's going to fuck up our movie.
Even within we can rewrite a movie. That's fine. Believe me, they're not going to give up that easy. But it's really, it's really within the realm of possibility.
It really is.
There's so much different legislation going through, whether it's Mitch McConnell or just this week was our good friend Matt Gaetz down in Florida. He's introduced a research bill. Now, Schumer, Chucky the Shoe, last week came out on 420, said, I'm going to introduce a bill. Nothing yet. Nothing. He has not introduced anything.
Oh, really?
Bernie co-sponsored the Marijuana Justice Act. Schumer has not introduced his bill. So where's the bill? Where's the bill, Chucky? Let's see. Let's put your money where your mouth is. Kamala Harris, of course. No other senator other than those three. Bernie, Gillibrand, and the Wyden. I'm going to say it's Wyden. I have it right here. The Senate, it's Wyden, Wyden, Gillibrand, and now Bernie Sanders are co-sponsors of Cory Booker's Marijuana Justice Act. The one in the House, which is Barbara Lee, it's the sister bill to this one. So basically the exact same bill. She has 35 co-sponsors, all Democrats in the House, for the Marijuana Justice Act. Now these are the most far-reaching legislation that's being introduced. The other side, that's why we're looking for Chucky to shoe. He wants to decriminalize. We're looking to see what his verbiage is going to be. And of course, we have all of these competing legislations. What's going to go forward? You know what's going forward? The hemp bill.
Awesome.
The hemp bill is being fast-tracked by Mitch McConnell.
Of course it is.
And that's going to have to make changes. We, of course, have been watching the federal cannabis lawsuit that Alexis Bortell is involved in, and the court angle of descheduling and removing cannabis from the schedule, the Controlled Substances Act. What are the implications? Well, we'll get into that, but let's take a look at Fox and Five. Fox
Hi,
5.
Phil.
Fox
Hi,
5.
Phil.
What's Phil got to say?
Phil's here.
Yay, Phil. Thanks, Phil. Mobile Phil, Pirate Radio. Taking the show on the road. Thanks, buddy, for getting the information out.
Employers can't say no after a little while. It's already being challenged in multiple places. We did a story a few months back, I think it was in Boston, where the court is requiring the insurance carrier to pay for the guy's medicine who went out on a workers' comp thing.
That's right, as a workers' comp thing. It's not that employers are not trying. We have a big temp employer in San Diego area that is, no way, you cannot come in. But you're gonna see it evolve. I think just like everything else, and they bring that up in this video. So let's take a look at this video. We'll get into some of the chats. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Love the conversation. This is fantastic. If you're watching on D Live, jump in the chat. Let us know. Make a comment. Give us a thumbs up. We need some of that steam, whatever that gets you.
Steam, yeah.
Helps promote the show, actually. I just reuse my Steam and everything to help promote the show, and it seems to be paying off a little bit, getting some notice, and hopefully we got some Steam friends jumping in soon. We are going out, so let's see. Okay, let's watch this first video. This is Fox 5. This is the 5 notorious for their right-wing attitudes. And if you don't know who Greg Gottlieb is, you're going to find out not the Greg we all know and love, or hate, or whatever it is. Let's check it out.
Well, yeah, you don't want
We want your people back to work, right?
operating heavy machinery when they're testing positive for things. Listen, I'm a total hypocrite on it. I think a lot of parents are. You smoke when you're young, and then when you get older and you have kids, you don't want your kids smoking.
Right.
It's as simple as that. I do think this is the direction this country's heading in, though.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the taboo around weed because I think maybe it might repel people that are on the fence about it.
Right.
With that said, I do agree with something Schumer said, Crying Chuck, for those of you who don't know his nickname, that if you're black in this country and maybe you're, walking around with like a dime bag and you get popped, they might actually book you for that. Or
Right.
if you're like some preppy white kid in the suburbs and you get caught with the gram, they're going to probably say, all right, run along.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a double standard there, and I understand people are upset about it, but at the same time, pot's not really that good for you in a broader sense of the word.
And Jesse brings up a good point, Kimberly. I mean, parenting, as you know, is hard enough as it is. So what do you think about normalizing pot? It makes people lazy. It does. Greg's face.
There's so much misinformation going on at this table. I apologize to anybody who's ever read up on this drug for this ignorance. Go ahead.
Oh, Greg. When you have kids, you might feel differently about
You
pot.
can't use that. You cannot use that excuse.
Just
Number one.
Okay, I asked Kimberly about kids.
All right, go
first,
ahead.
and then
Wait
I'll come
till
to you.
I understand.
I'll come to childless Greg after.
Ooh,
I'm
it's
kidding.
just you are bizarre.
I'm kidding.
All right, go ahead.
Somebody needs to have maybe some medicinal marijuana at the table. So here's the problem. You don't want to glamorize it. You don't want children to try to start to take it to then gateway to other drugs. However, it has an important role in society in terms of its medicinal qualities and properties. Very good to so many people that I know that have had cancer or died. It brought a lot of comfort to those who were suffering. or towards the end of their life. We talked about the other day, even veterinarians are now supplying it, dispensing it for
Even
animals as
veterinarians.
well. So that being the case, you want to make sure that you are looking at it, at all the studies, and making sure that you're actually fully and thoroughly not dismissing something, stigmatizing it. However, on the other side, having been a prosecutor, I would like to think, Jesse, that, you know,
Former
they're
prostitute?
treating people the same, but sometimes I guess there's certain instances, but as a whole, I think law enforcement, they don't have an interest in just, you know, going and tormenting and picking on people and discriminating.
No, I'm not
to try to
knocking
pick.
law enforcement, because if you're doing it by the book, you know, that's how it's got to be.
Right, so it's got to be okay, but you know, there's
Yes,
also those people
Jocelyn,
that have
that's
been in
exactly
federal
right.
prisons for small amounts, and
Pot
we have to
just
have some more
magnifies what you are
uniformity
to begin with.
uniformity in the law so that
Exactly.
there isn't, you know, unequal treatment.
Okay, Greg, you defend it.
I don't have. I actually don't have to defend it. All you have to do is look at the facts and look at history. You might want to read up on prohibition and how that worked out for the country when alcohol was illegal. Once alcohol was illegal, the deaths declined. Alcohol has killed far more people in a day than marijuana has killed in the history of the drug. You're right. It is true. That is a fact. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean that it should be illegal. In terms of employment, yes, you don't want people high working machinery, but you don't want them drunk either. So you have rules for that. Just because you don't like something or you think it's going to be dangerous to your kids isn't the reason why you
don't
have a
believe
law.
It's a gateway drug.
No, there's no evidence that it's a gateway drug. And actually,
I'll tell you that. I'll just say.
no,
that,
let me finish.
yeah,
Let me
okay.
finish. Because the other thing, too, is the idea that you want to make it a taboo. A taboo, making something taboo has never worked among young people. The more you make something dangerous, the more appealing it is. In fact, the opposite strategy is to make something mundane and as boring as possible so that no one looks at it as as edgy. But there's plenty of research out there to take a look at it. I would ask that you read that instead of approaching
just so
a
you
topic
know,
emotionally.
I'm not approaching it emotionally. I've spoken to drug rehabilitation counselors and drug and law officers who have told me and my husband, do not legalize it. It's a gateway drug. It will make it harder for us to do our job.
That's
So
not a
I'm just
study,
letting you
but
know.
okay. That's not a
Well, you know.
statistic either. That's
On the fence about it.
Right.
The Fox Fiend 5. The Fiendish Fox 5.
Wow.
Now, I don't know who that fucking guy Greg is.
Wow.
That had all that great stuff to say about cannabis. He was not included in that first clip of Reefer Madness from Fox.
He's the sane one at Fox.
The brunette, the one brunette was.
The one who
I don't
wants
know what her
facts.
name is. And of course the prosecutor.
That's crazy.
Who has no clue apparently about the social disparity in the justice system.
That's amazing.
And if that's happening, it's a bad thing. And Waters, of course, well, you know, they're doing their job. You know, it's by the book. Yeah, well, the book is wrong. That's the problem. And the book is not only wrong, it's not just, you know, the book is not thrown equally.
Right.
Let's just put it that way.
Right.
So
people of color get the book a lot
it's
more
selective
than
by
other
the book.
people.
But it's a great clip. I'm glad. I appreciate Kyle Kalinske finding it. Literally, I couldn't find it.
Putting it together, yeah.
So that was from his. So and he does a good take on basically that this debate is happening on Fox News.
That's fantastic.
And you know.
That's what's mainstreaming cannabis.
You know, is
Fox News making America great.
You know, if Donald wants to take credit for this,
not the way they thought.
I'm all for it. He
I don't
hates
care.
Beauregard. You know who else hates Beauregard? Who I had no clue hated Beauregard so much. We know she's our favorite libertarian over on Fox. Our favorite ex-KROQ DJ.
Yeah, Kennedy.
Over on Fox. The exit judge. Oh, I just want to say to Joyce, Jocelyn Russell, welcome, Jocelyn. She made a comment that in reality, people are lazy. People are lazy or not before they take one toke. If the people think that smoking pot makes you lazy, it doesn't. I was lazy long before I started smoking pot. It's just the way I am. So it has nothing to do with the pot. But here's the thing. Here's the really cool thing about that is you can actually, because it does, it basically creates this neuroplasticity in the brain, and it allows you to develop new habits. So you can use cannabis and marijuana in that state where those those electrons are going on. You can create new grooves in the brain of things you want to do, like paint or work out or doing something. It's just a matter of getting over your innate laziness to use that ability of cannabis. So thanks for getting into the chat there, Jocelyn. And let's check out our. Did you have something to say about that, babe?
No, I wanted to. Keep going. Yes,
video?
Keep going. Yes, because what you're saying is making me want to talk about the Sanjay Gupta stuff. But
right, and that's
I don't want to talk about it too soon.
Not yet. I want to see.
Not yet.
Yes, not yet. Okay, let's take a look at Kennedy, our favorite KROQ ex-DJ.
As much as I can't stand our Attorney General, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, he is kind of starting to see the light on weed. Yesterday, he admitted, quote, there may well be some medical benefits from medicinal marijuana, but he still doesn't think it will help the opioid epidemic. Is he willfully blind? Joining me now from Fox News Medical A-Team, Dr. Mark Siegel, also a professor at NYU Langone. Nice to see you.
Also a recovery doctor,
because
business.
Now there has been critical mass reached in a new Quinnipiac poll, the highest number of respondents ever, 63% say they approve of marijuana being legal in various states. 93% approve of legal medical cannabis. And there are two other studies that you and I have talked about that show opioid overdose deaths decrease in states where there is medical cannabis, and also that there are far fewer prescriptions written for opioids where there are the most permissive medical marijuana laws.
And the Attorney General is dubious on that, but the studies over and over have shown that. In the 29 states which have medical marijuana laws, you've seen a decrease of over 25% in opioid-related overdose deaths. That's huge.
Yes.
And in Medicare and Medicaid data, over a decade, it's shown decreases of prescriptions among Medicaid users of about 6%, Medicare of about 9%. So clearly, medical marijuana decreases opioid prescriptions. Why wouldn't
Sessions
it?
is a moron.
It's been shown to decrease
We all agree.
pain. It's clear that's
we
where
agree
he's
with POTUS on this.
suddenly starting to see the light. He sees what we've known for a while now, which is medical marijuana decreases pain.
And we have to make the distinction.
That would make America
marijuana
great.
and recreational.
POTUS.
Now, whatever someone puts in their body, I don't care. If they don't hurt me,
POTUS
if they don't
Donald
take my
Trump.
stuff,
He's also
I really
going to be
don't
the
care.
ERA
I think
president.
The war on drugs has failed.
Yeah,
I
how
think
about
it's
that?
deadly
Blow
and
your
costly
fucking mind.
and stupid. And the supply side combat has done nothing to help inner cities and rural communities that are being decimated by opioid addiction.
Not only that, I'm going to get a little controversial here and tell you that Attorney General Sessions
Do it,
is
Doc.
wrong about something else. Which is prosecuting people for opioids has not led to a decrease in the epidemic either. Because you know what people do when they're in jail?
Interesting.
They buy and sell opioids. So our prisons are not geared
ICE
up
in
for
Maui
rehab.
County.
So the bill that's out there now, the Opioid Crisis Response
Yeah,
Act.
and that's the one that passed the Senate Health Committee today.
Right, and the House is looking at their version. It's not passed the whole Senate yet.
Yeah.
It actually is doing some things I like. It needs more money. It definitely needs more money. But what it is doing that I like is it has the NIH researching alternatives. It has doctors being able to look into histories of people that have opioids. And most importantly, medically assisted therapy with Suboxone and other drugs to get people off.
And that's what they have to do is look at less addictive resources. Thank you so much, Dr. Siegel.
Agree on medical marijuana. We agree on legalization.
Oh. Mind blown.
Wow.
Vegan Metro made a very good point. The Dems are. Oh, no. Wait.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. But the first one was the Fox guys are actually to the left of all MSNBC hosts on cannabis.
Yeah.
You are correct, sir. This is Fox. And tonight, Ganja Gupta is taking it to fake news, CNN. That's the one problem I got, unfortunately, is that Sanjay is pushing this on CNN, and that's not going to make a lot of inroad into conservative communities. But I think if Trump wants to be the pot president, Alex POTUS, I'm down. I'm down. And the ERA, gee, wonder if that would be happening if Hillary Clinton was president.
No, it'd be big resistance.
You don't think they'd be going, oh, yeah, this is a great time to pass the ERA? Nope. The conservatives and everybody else would be
hysterically against it.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, hilarious. None of this would be happening. And we'd still be bombing Syria. So, Sanjay Gupta. That's right. Let's take a listen to, this is the promo.
Yeah.
Which is starting in 5 minutes. We're not going to leave the show, but here's what's going to be here. Here's what part of what we're going to watch today. We're going to watch a couple. He was all over CNN. He went on every fucking show promoting this. We're going to watch one after this. But
promo. Yeah, CNN is super invested in this, and it's exciting.
Listen, they are putting a lot of money in promoting this, and it's. When we come back, we're gonna read the letter from Sanjay Gupta wrote to Sessions, but they cover it in this. So let's just take a look at a couple of these videos.
We're gonna work with the people who are so addicted, and we're gonna try like hell to get them off that addiction.
A national epidemic. Trump campaigned to end it. As president, he promised to fix it.
This scourge of drug addiction in America will stop. It will stop.
But 1 year later, it hasn't stopped. People are still dying. 115
That's how we're going to do it. We're going to make this deal.
From an opioid overdose. More than car accidents, breast cancer, or guns.
Literally everyone we know knows somebody who has died of an overdose.
And 2.5 million Americans are currently struggling with opioid addiction.
It was completely hopeless where I just was like, suicide is all constant thought.
People need to take some aspirin sometimes and tough it out.
A solution some believe
Fly
is
Like an
this.
Eagle 1776.
Cannabis.
Welcome.
Oh, nice. Hi.
It's controversial to many. Is cannabis a gateway drug? But a gateway to recovery for others.
Did it help you get off of the opiates?
Absolutely. Cannabis has given me a reason to live.
Join us as we investigate, search for answers, and meet potential pioneers and outspoken critics. Whether you struggle with opioids or know one of the millions who do, decide for yourself.
There's been such a remarkable shift in public.
Joining us. I hate that guy. I hate that guy. We're not going to watch his segment. But that's the Media Matters fool. They essentially cover. Sanjay covers all the same ground in these three segments. One with the Tapper, and the media critic there. But this one has some new information in it that I did not know. So I thought we'd play this one. So let's watch.
Joining us now is Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, great to see you.
Sanjay Gupta.
What's the connection between marijuana and opioid abuse?
Sanjay Gupta.
I believe that it can treat the underlying pain that people usually take opioids for in the first place.
You think pot can?
I think pot can. I think it can treat the withdrawal. One of the reasons people can't quit opioids is because they have these withdrawal symptoms, which is very similar to the sort of chemotherapy symptoms people have with cancer patients. And we know it can treat that. It can treat these withdrawal symptoms the same way, the same mechanism. And the most interesting thing to me, Alice, and the thing I sort of learned while making this documentary was that opioids change your brain. They change your brain. They do it quickly. That's what people mean when they say that's a brain disease. And it changes a very specific part of the brain. If you continue to take opioids, that part of your brain doesn't heal. Research now shows CBD, which is a component of marijuana, cannabis, can heal that part of the brain.
Is that right?
Yeah, it can help treat the underlying brain disease that's fueling the addiction.
I didn't know it was reversible.
I didn't either, and this some of what I'm talking about is happening real time. This is research that is happening right now.
CBD, people.
If you had to design a substance de novo that could help lead us out of this opioid epidemic, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Now, you didn't always feel this way about marijuana. You were skeptical, even about the medicinal uses of it. So describe your evolution.
I think several years ago, I wrote about this for various magazines, wrote a big article in Time magazine 9 years ago, basically saying, not impressed with the medicinal research on this. I think what I came to understand, Alice, and I think it's a large message here, is that Most of the funding for marijuana research in this country was funding for studies designed to look for harm. In fact, 96% of the studies that we looked at, their question was, how does marijuana cause harm? Only single-digit percentage of studies actually looked at benefits. So if you looked at it from the macro point of view, you would say, does it cause cancer? Does it cause addiction? Does it cause all these other problems? You wouldn't be particularly impressed. I started to look at non-federally funded labs, and I started to leave the country and look at other places, other countries that are doing this research for a long time, and a different picture started to emerge. And it became clear from some of these researchers I was talking to, not only could this be a medicine, there were times when it could be a medicine when nothing else had worked. Everything else had failed. This could come in and rescue.
So when you just heard Jeff Sessions there in our piece say, you know, I think people need to take an aspirin and tough it out.
Look, you know, I feel very strongly about this, Allison. You know, we're in the middle of this opioid epidemic. It is the worst self-inflicted epidemic in our history. Tens of thousands of people dying. I mean, you know, it has plateaued our life expectancy in the United States. All the great things we do in medicine and to try and push back the frontiers, those are all being totally obviated by this self-inflicted epidemic. Taking a couple of aspirin and toughing it out, it's a disconnect with what's happening out there. Not to mention that if you start taking opioids because you get a prescription, within a few days, your brain changes. Okay. The idea of telling people to just say no is egregious, according to the researchers I talked to. It's just not possible. And we understand that better than ever. So there has to be something done about this epidemic.
We have got to figure out what to do about it. I don't know a family that hasn't been touched. We have to find our way out of this epidemic.
I completely agree. I completely agree. Tens of thousands of lives.
Sanjay, thank you so much for sharing your research with us. Can't wait to see it. So tune in this Sunday.
It's fine.
Yeah, it'll be on again. They'll repeat it.
Yeah.
No need to join now. I'm sure it's interesting to see what kind of numbers they're going to get on a Sunday afternoon.
On a Sunday afternoon.
But, yeah.
Hi, Miriam.
Good conversation. Hey, Miriam, good question. Yeah, it's a little fishy. Boehner's on board. You know, I mean, they're coming. Everybody comes to cannabis. Cash or cures. That's basically
mostly
it.
Cash.
Mostly cash. And if that's what it takes.
Who cares?
I mean, Vermont just
Doesn't
introduced.
matter.
Vermont just is. They are now looking at tax and regulate. They decriminalized it. Now they're looking at tax and regulate. Of course, New York is getting closer. New Jersey's getting closer than New York. But you know, it's like one of the stories we have in the roll-up from Santa Cruz. You know, you either love the smell of pot or you hate the smell of pot growing. And it's really a love-hate relationship, and that's ultimately what we're seeing. But essentially, everybody's going to come to the cash. And if that gets us descheduled,
so be it.
So be it.
So be it. And Miriam was asking about Monsanto, the Monsantoization of cannabis. And yeah, that's happening. That's a possibility. Of course, that's going to happen. But, you know, there's always going to be revolutionaries like us who are going to want to grow or have friends who grow. Of course, I'm not excited about the Monsantoization of cannabis, but I do want it to be able to get to people who need it in hospitals and federally funded facilities and in federally funded programs. So if it takes big pharma to step in to a certain degree, then that's what it's going to take because they have that infrastructure and that system. I don't ever want it to be illegal for you and I or our neighbors and friends to be able to grow it as well. So I think it all needs to be safe and legal or accessible for those of us who want to grow it and be rebels and weirdos because, you know, my family's been using organic foods and eating organic my whole life. And that's not weird or new or different. So there's always going to be rebels and weirdos that want to grow their own or work outside the system, and that should always be, you know, legal and accessible and okay, in my opinion.
Well, it needs to not be criminalized, that's for sure. Essentially, you know, you can't. If cannabis becomes descheduled, marijuana is removed from the Controlled Substances Act. Let's forget the fact that we're breaking a couple of treaties
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
That's a big deal. You're going up against that. You're going up against local laws, state laws that don't necessarily. Basically, it's throwing it in. If Schumer's bill goes through, if we'll see what it says, when he eventually introduces it, because he hasn't introduced anything. It's been a week, and nothing's been introduced. Over a week now. In all of last week, he introduced a bill on synthetic, or there was a bill. I think he was involved in this synthetic marijuana thing. There's a synthetic bill. But anyway,
Sergeant Midnight is saying that states need to vote against synthetic CBD.
Right. Well, yeah. Actually,
all synthetic cannabis should not be allowed, but don't buy it. Don't buy it. Just don't buy it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Let the market decide.
And don't spray rat poison on your.
Clearly.
On whatever you're going to smoke either.
Obviously.
So, you know, people make poor choices. I mean, that's, it's not cannabis's fault. Yeah. But yes, synthetic cannabis is a problem. Like opioids are a problem. I mean.
We are the revolution.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. So if it's removed from the controlled subsect, hey, listen, Oregon wouldn't have a problem finding a place for their cannabis.
That's right.
They could just spread it all the way along the West Coast.
That's right.
Wherever they wanted to.
To any other legal state or state.
To any other legal
state, yeah.
You could have trade deals with Oregon, with Washington, with Colorado.
Nevada,
so
Montana.
When we have a shortage, we can get it from there.
Mm-hmm.
We can try our great California way cannabis.
Oh, it'd be fun. It'd be like different wines from different regions.
Right?
It'd be so great.
Grandma wouldn't get arrested driving to Kansas with 80 pounds of weed in her trunk with Grandpa because they can't pay their medical bills. So they wanted to make a little extra cash and bringing weed to the town where it's dry. I think there's 4 states where it's like there are no cannabis positive laws. That's maybe changing, but as of right now, and that wouldn't happen if it was descheduled and for crossing state lines. That's what they get in trouble for. So I guess if state troopers want to stop them, I guess that's another story because it's a state that. It would be up to the states, right? But most of the time, people get busted because they're crossing federal lines. But if you're crossing federal lines into a state that's legal, flying from one state that's legal to another state that's legal, shouldn't be a problem. If you're a cannabis medical refugee, and you want to travel to a state that's not necessarily that doesn't allow cannabis, but you need it for medical reasons, maybe that should be in the law.
Yeah.
That the federal law supersedes the state law with regards to medical cannabis.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting possibility, right? An amendment.
My medicine, man.
Yeah. So fine. If you want
to
take your recreational pot to cannabis, you've got a legitimate reason to use cannabis or oil or whatever it is, and to travel and cross state lines. So that would be good. There's a lot of interesting things happening under this presidency, if you want to call it that. And ultimately, it's like they've pulled back the veil, and the wizard, who was really kind of an idiot, essentially, at least to begin with, behind the curtain is there, and all of this stuff is happening. Well, I think it's kind of what we got going here. I don't think any of this is necessarily planned.
Yeah.
Like the ERA stuff, I don't think I think you're seeing it because he's there. I think you're seeing, the cannabis may be a whole different deal. Somebody made an interesting comment about how it was only after Trump spoke to Gardner that
about states'
Schumer
rights, right?
Came out and said, "Oh, well, we got to get rid of it. The states need to be allowed to do it." And I apologize for not remembering who it was that said that. But that's an excellent point. Why did Schumer come out last week to jump on the 420 train to counteract the Republican moves?
I think it was
on
Weed
cannabis.
Update.
What's that?
I think it might have been Weed. It was Weed Update.
Maybe it might have been Weed Update. Welcome, Weed Update. Thanks for joining the show. We follow you on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter at DC420LA. I did check, Alex. Ganja Gupta is not trending, but we should try to get that trending. The show's on right now.
Right now, yeah, Ganja Gupta.
We should try to get Ganja Gupta.
That'd be funny.
Trending. I'm sure there's tweets, but let's go on to it. While we're doing that, while we're going to try to get Ganja Gupta trending with our 30 viewers or 20 viewers or however many we have across all the platforms that we're going out across. We're going out on everyone that's got a streaming live capability and have some people on it. We're going out over. We're of course going over YouTube. Subscribe, get notifications, ring that bell, share the video, share the information. We do this for the love of the plant and educating people about recreational and medical cannabis. So whatever platform you're on, do whatever you need to do. And let's take a look at, as we go finish up our national block here, going through cable news. You're up, MSNBC. Your turn to talk about cannabis.
What's going on?
Hey, Real Jingy's back from his meditation session. Welcome back. Too much information. Okay, let's watch this. And you made it just back in time for a really amazing video. We reported on this a couple of months ago, or maybe a month ago, about the weed goggles that these companies are trying to peddle, about basically how you can experience being high and what all the problems that it presents. So this comes from Real Stone Times. They put together some pretty good videos over there. And this one is particularly informative and very enjoyable. So let's check this out.
Marijuana goggles.
Space.
Yes, they're real. And they're supposed to simulate what it's like being high. Now, I don't condone anyone driving under the influence, but blatant propaganda like this is not okay.
Today at NHP headquarters.
A lot of people don't think they're impaired the same as they are when they're under the influence of alcohol, and we're out here to show you that you are.
I had to put these fatal vision goggles on.
So let's see what these look like. They make you a little dizzy.
They simulate what it's like to drive high.
That actually makes me feel a little bit queasy.
So we all know the dangers of driving under the influence of alcohol. With as little as 4 drinks, you see high levels of impairment in a person's motor skills. Alcohol will impair everything needed to drive a vehicle optimally, like hand-eye coordination, concentration, attention, and your reaction time. Cannabis, on the other hand, is a different story. According to a study in 1994, being under the influence of cannabis had very little effect on a user's impairment. This study showed that someone driving under the influence of alcohol is overconfident in their ability to drive, which increases risk, versus driving under the influence of cannabis, which made the user much more self-critical about their driving. Now let's be real. Who would you rather have driving home impaired after a party? The bro who just shotgunned an entire 6-pack, or the guy who sat at the stoner circle, took a few puffs, and now wants to go get Del Taco on the way home? I'm going to take the guy who's driving 10 under the speed limit. Now let's see how these marijuana goggles really affect your driving.
Then I hopped on a tricycle and had to maneuver my way through cones.
Okay.
I didn't do very well.
That would be my toe you're hitting.
Well, there you have it, folks. Grade A science. And what better way to explain the effects of cannabis on your driving than to throw somebody on a tricycle and have them drive around some orange cones? Now, you're probably wondering, how accurate is it to actually being high? Well, let's just have these lovely folks explain it to you.
When you put them on, everything is kind of hazy. You can't really see very well, and you can't tell how far away things are. So when I'm going to grab these handrails right here, they feel like they should be out here. NHP says these goggles simulate what it's like if you drive high.
So I think this explains why stoners always have the weirdest munchies. It's not that they want to put the SpaghettiOs on the pizza. They just are, they smoke and they get into the kitchen and they just kind of like grab whatever they can and... So not only does being high make you legally blind, but you can also kiss that full ride basketball scholarship goodbye.
So you'll think you're going to make a basket, but really you're going to be way off.
So does this prove that you're a worse driver when you're high? Well, Officer Hickson gives us his golden stamp of approval.
People, I hear this all the time. People think they can drive high. They say, I'm better driver when I'm high. And this, I wish everyone could do this.
And that definitely proves that they cannot.
Look, we all have the friend who says they're a better driver when they're high, and they're probably not lying. A study in 1983 analyzed the effects of alcohol, cannabis, and their combination on driving ability. And it showed that experienced smokers showed no functional impairment after smoking cannabis, except when it was combined with alcohol. That being said, I'm not trying to make light of driving safely. I think we should all take personal responsibility for getting behind the wheel of a flying metal death trap. But it's this type of blatant propaganda that is making people think negatively of cannabis for decades. Get your science right.
I'm just not good at this in general.
So you're saying you don't drive well?
Yeah,
So that's the propaganda.
She couldn't ride the tricycle.
With the fatal goggles on, not the pot goggles.
Well, no, that's who makes the pot goggles.
I know. Fatal goggles.
They make the alcohol. They make an alcohol goggle.
Yeah.
That's where they get started. And now they're making the weed goggles.
It's ridiculous.
So that was actually a really good weed update. That was really put together well from Real Stoned Times. They have some pretty good stuff. Very informative. The experienced marijuana user, there's a difference. There's a difference than people who have never done it before.
There is. I'm an experienced cannabis user. I used cannabis for a long, long time, and then I didn't use cannabis for a year and a half. And then I started using cannabis, and when I first got back on the bike, I'm not going to lie, I had some strange motor skill moments. I was playing some games in the living room, some video games and stuff, and I was not hitting the button when I wanted to hit the button. But you know what else? I would not get in the fucking car to drive either. I'm just not, you know better.
Well,
Don't get behind the wheel.
That was another good point made in the video, that cannabis drivers or people on cannabis are much more hyper
aware.
Aware.
You call it aware, but I think it's paranoid, really.
Yeah, it's paranoid. Yeah, sure. A little bit of paranoia is healthy, But yeah, I mean, you do, what did he say? What, 4 drinks to be impaired? I think that's a little high. Or a little low, or high, rather.
It's high, but it depends on how long. I mean, like, I had 4 drinks over a 6-hour period.
Yeah, I mean, won't say that I've done it, probably have, but drinking after 3 or 4 is probably not such a great idea, depending on how much time consumed, I suppose.
Yeah, Jocelyn, those weed goggles would look like, that's what it would look like if it was a gas mask and
Jocelyn,
I exhaled.
We were talking about that. It's like, dude, that's if you got into your car and put on a gas mask bong.
Yeah.
And started driving. I would say don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. That would be a bad thing to do.
Definitely never ever drive that way.
That's essentially what those goggles would simulate.
So funny.
Except all the other good effects of what's going on.
That's right.
While you're hotboxing. So yeah, that definitely looked like she was hotboxing in the goggles and without the good benefits. And of course, riding a big wheel is right up there. Apparently she can't ride a big wheel
sober
when she's sober.
Right.
So that's there. So that was a good.
I did drive those go-karts awfully slow.
And you were high.
I'm not gonna lie.
Right?
I was high.
I drove it fast.
But my foot was pushed all the way down. I don't know what happened.
I had a bunch of Blue Dream before I got in there. So did
I. Anyway. Okay, let's go to the next story.
I knew I couldn't be hurt either, although somebody did break their back.
Somebody did break their back. It's not.
My mic is low. Oh, thanks. Thanks, DD. I'll crank it up a little bit.
Oh, you better listen. Hey, we're going to check out the next story, and you can check it out.
Okay.
Bye, Weed Update. Thank you.
Weed Update. Oh, bye, Weed Update. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching the show. Make sure you subscribe, get notifications. We do this every Sunday at 4:20 Pacific. And let's get into our news roll-up as we roll. Why don't you load us a bowl of wedding cake? And we will, Reefer Madness 2018. No, well, we gotta deal with that. That Dr. Mark Siegel, he actually he owns a recovery center. That's his business. So this is one of the industries that are saying, whoa.
Yeah, because it's fucking up their bottom line.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in recovery, alleged recovery. So I think we need to smash that button. Thanks, Alex.
Babo, would you please pass the lighter?
The lighter. Yes.
The one and only lighter.
We're going to enjoy a lovely bowl of our California wedding cake. Thanks to ITSG Collective.
Yes. Play the next story.
Play the next clip. We're going to move into the West. We're going to start in the West. We've only got
the whole block.
We're going to we'll start the whole block anyway. Okay. We'll take our mic off and enjoy a couple of stories maybe as we start, or we'll jump in between states.
Yes, it is interesting how CBD can repair the addicted brain.
I did not know that.
The U.S. patent for cannabis is for a neuroprotectant, and I think that the reason we don't have an effective treatment for Alzheimer's disease is because we haven't been studying cannabis. So now that we're going to start studying it, we might start to have an effective treatment for brain diseases like that, which is very exciting.
Well, that was another interesting point that the Gupta made, was that 96% of the studies done have been to find the harm that cannabis causes.
Oh, it's terrible for harm.
So you're not looking at the benefits. So now they're going to start looking at the benefits. The VA is going to start looking. We have that legislation probably going to get through because that is bipartisan support. Marijuana Justice Act in the House. There's no Republicans on that, so I don't think that's going anywhere. But let's take a look. Let's move into our West Coast block, and starting up in Oregon, where we know they've got one of those really big pot problems. They have a big pot problem up in Oregon.
Huge.
It's tragic because, we know about the opioid crisis. And the cannabis crisis is when your guy is out of town and it's not legal in your state. That's your cannabis crisis. But that's not a problem up in Oregon, apparently, because their pot problem is they've got way too much weed. And now I've never heard of that, quite frankly.
Too much weed?
I heard someone said to us once, when there's weed all over your coffee table, like crumbs of weed all over your coffee table, you've got too much weed.
Right.
That's when you know when you've got a gram or more spread out in crumbs on your coffee table.
Too much weed.
You probably have too much weed. So let's listen to Oregon, shall we?
Hi, Daily Dope.
Daily Dope, welcome to the show. Check out Daily Dope. On a point folks over to your channel to check out your Daily Dope on Michigan. And we have a couple of stories in the roll-up tonight, but you did a great coverage of what it really means to have this on the ballot in Michigan. So I point everybody over there to the Daily Dope Show and check him out. Let's take a look at this clip from Oregon, where they've got the worst problem in the world.
Talking about Portland has a pot problem may sound like a good problem to have, but apparently too much marijuana is leaving shops and farmers with mountains of unwanted bud. And our pot surplus is the topic of this week's, here it is right here, got to show you this, Willamette Week cover story. We're joined now by the co-author of that article, Katie Shepard. Katie, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Always appreciate it. There's actually a weed surplus in the state now. How did this happen?
The surplus happened for a couple of reasons. One was last year we had a very mild summer and a mild fall. So the crop just exploded. There was so much growth, and farmers lost virtually none of their crop. So the harvest was huge. And the other factor that played into this is that the OLCC was giving licenses out at an extremely high rate. So essentially anybody who applied and qualified for a license got one. And that led to a lot more farmers than in the 2 previous years, and a lot more cannabis than had previously been grown. And we ended up with about 1.1 million pounds of cannabis, which is about 3 times as much as Oregon smokes a year.
Unbelievable. What's this doing to the price of pot? I would imagine it's just plummeting at this point.
Yeah, in October, the price fell by about 40%, and it's pretty much stayed that low. It hasn't.
I heard $50 a pound.
Can't you just
in some cases?
The farmers and the dispensary owners that I talked to do expect the price to go up maybe a little bit as we move through the summer months, which is their busier season.
Make oil.
But they don't see it going back up to the levels that it was at before October.
So how is this affecting the pot retailers? And do you have some folks out there going, I'm just not making enough money right now. I'm not sure I can cut this?
Absolutely. There was a dispensary owner I talked to named Don Morse who had been in the business since 2010. He moved his dispensary to Portland in 2012, back when it was just a medical marijuana shop. They transitioned to recreational when recreational marijuana was legalized. And so they had been in that spot since 2012, and they closed up shop on New Year's Eve of last year because they just couldn't make the numbers work.
I'm also hearing that more pot farmers are thinking about starting up in the state of Oregon this year, despite all the surplus of folks out there now. What's going on there?
Going out of business.
That's right. The OLCC has enough applications for licenses to double the amount of people in the cannabis industry. So we could see about twice as many farmers and twice as many dispensaries if all of those licenses are granted this year.
What's the solution to this then, to the surplus?
Everybody coming to Portland for vacation.
For the summer.
Some people think that the OLCC
Let's go, everybody.
needs to put a cap on how many licenses it grants.
And
some people
get
think
a lot of
that
weed.
the regulators should stay out of it and just let the market adjust, and some people will succeed and some people will fail.
I just wanted to go to Portland.
The market goes sometimes.
Yeah, I do post in the Southern Oregon Harvest
Good to
Group.
have you on here. We appreciate it. You can check out the story in this week's edition of Willamette
Maybe we
Week on
could go be
newsstands
trimmers
now,
in Oregon.
or read the article online at wweek.com. Also in this week's issue, more.
Who cares? We're only worried about weed.
Blah, blah, blah. That's the only news I care about.
Too much weed in Oregon. All right, I think we need to plan. If we weren't going, had so much travel planned already, I'd say we should take a trip up to Oregon.
Well, we have to drive up to Reno, so maybe we should just take a little
That's a little bit of
side trip.
A little bit of a diversion.
A little bit of a side trip.
So we didn't. That was not the wedding cake bowl. We are now loading the wedding cake bowl now. We had to finish that bowl. You have to.
Hi, Daily Dope Driving.
Daily Dope Driving, like a podcast. We're going to upload to a podcast or something at some point. I'm going to figure that out so folks can do that. Once I get all my audio worked out, hope the sound's better. I think it is. And that's always that's a weekly challenge here in my living room. But let's go to another story in Oregon. That was Willamette Week, Willamette, Oregon. One of my favorite locations in a fictional book. Here is another story out of Oregon. I believe this is KGW News on the Miracle.
They should just press all that weed into oil and they'll be fine.
Right?
No big deal.
Let's load up some good machines and take them up there on a truck.
Yeah.
And just
sail the pirate pot ship up the coast, Phil. Go to Oregon.
Oh yeah.
That'd be rad.
We better wait for Schumer's bill.
That'd be great.
That'd be quite the story though, wouldn't it? We broadcast from there. We do a live show from the ship as we go from the Oregon coast down to California with our pot. It'd be fun. Look, it sounds like a movie. Sounds like a movie. We'll have to work on that. Okay, let's go look at this. We got CBD still happening in Oregon. I think this is an Oregon story. Let's check it out. People are still looking for they don't want to just get high in Oregon. They want to get healthy. They want to heal and not necessarily get high. And apparently you could do that with CBD.
So we have a high CBD patch and we do it in a 36-hour time release. You just peel off the foam from the plastic. After you've cleaned the area, you just go ahead and apply it to the skin.
36
Mandy Siebert owns Synergy Skinworks. Her company grows marijuana and now is bringing what was once only for medical pot patients and rigorously lab tested to the recreational user.
I would say it's similar to an ibuprofen or Advil. Surprisingly, a lot of nursing homes were some of the biggest patients or clients that were coming in to purchase them.
It's because they're using the CBD version, the non-psychoactive compound found in marijuana that doesn't get you high. The patch hides under clothes. There's no smell or mess, and there's no watching the clock to take another pain pill. Stephanie Malott started using the medical CBD patches 2 years ago.
I live with a lot of pain. I have very limited function of my hands.
She suffers from rheumatoid and osteoarthritis, among other ailments.
I was using methotrexate, prednisone, Remicade. I've been on Enbrel. I've been on Humira.
She's gotten off all that now and just uses a patch a day.
It's like finally somebody is hearing us. This is a product that works so well.
She's got 2 in her arms.
You don't have the terrible side effects.
I think patches are wonderful.
Dr. Janice Knox has 30 years as an anesthesiologist, but now specializes in prescribing correct levels of cannabis for patients suffering. She just touted the benefits of CBD on the Megyn Kelly Today Show.
I support that wholeheartedly. The fastest demographic growing for cannabinoids is that age 50 group and above. The senior citizens, I'm always cheering them on because they have been stuck on medications. And it's not that pharmaceuticals are not needed, it's the way we use them is wrong.
Okay, so what do these cost? Well, one patch will run you between $20 and $30 depending on the dispensary. We're going to have a link to their website at kgw.com.
KSBY News.
Bendy.
Yeah, I haven't seen a THC patch yet.
Only people with money can feel good.
$20 to $30 a patch.
Everybody else should just kill themselves.
One a day. That's a little bit more than an ibuprofen.
Yeah.
Or an Aleve.
Maybe in a hospital.
Yeah,
that's what they cost in a hospital.
No, that's
Ibuprofens.
ibuprofens, right? That's a very good point. That's exactly what they cost in a hospital.
Yeah, Portland does need to step up their pot tourism game. Daily Dope is saying.
Oh yeah,
that would totally help if they really marketed it. Like, come to Oregon and have a tour and get lots of weed.
Zox made the point they can grow their own in Oregon. There's no problem with that.
Right.
They're trying to stop it.
Yeah, too bad.
They want people to do it, and that's why there's so much.
No, you should always be able to grow your own plants.
Right. Yeah, that's that one. Well, those are a little high, Vegan Metro. When people are in pain, however, and they don't want to be on that shit, and more affluent, we're going to do it. And that means it's going to grow, it's going to increase demand. More people are going to do it. More companies are doing it. A lot of companies are doing it. It's going to be the biggest area of cannabis. Medical cannabis is going to be CBD. Guaranteed.
Right, exactly.
Guaranteed.
That's prohibitive unless you got free healthcare or something.
Yeah. Or it's covered
like
by your healthcare
healthcare
plan. And the reason they're not covered, and the reason why you can't have it in most nursing homes that are not private and get federal money, you can't do it because it's federally illegal. So there's another benefit to descheduling, removing it from Schedule 1. All of nursing homes will be able to use it because there's no federal legality problem, or at least that excuse will be off the table. And the big pharma excuse, they'll come up with another one. They'll come up with another excuse to stop it. So that was a couple of stories. I think that story was in Oregon, right? That was a couple of stories out of Oregon. And now we're going to move into California. Any other great quotes coming in? Yeah, $100 a day. That's a lot.
Yeah, no, Timbuktu was asking where he could buy those patches for someone he knows with early Parkinson's. And it's in Oregon, and the news story said that the links are on their, so rewind.
Right.
And go to
it won't be in ours, but I will drop our playlist for this week in the description, and you'll be able to find this video.
Perfect.
I usually do that before the show, and I forgot to do it. So, but you can find that video. That is from KGW News.
Okay, great. Yeah. So go to KGW News.
But if you're in a state where it's where CBD, a lot of states have some CBD laws, and you can get patches. So I don't know what state you're in, but check whatever your laws are. If you're not Kansas, Idaho, Wisconsin. I forget the fourth one. That's verboten everything. But every other state, basically, there's some level of CBD or full legalization happening. So check into it. And there are companies that will ship CBD products across country to other places. They're completely legal, and you have to check your reviews, check for make sure the company, do a little research. I would say, I do a lot of research on stuff, not so much on those, but on CBD. But we'll be happy to check into something for you. That's really because a lot of hemp comes from China, and that stuff's not so good. And of course, it all depends on testing. It all depends on process. Some hemp that's grown here in the United States, Kentucky and Colorado, that's strictly for CBD, is great shit. High resin, good medicinal plant material. So, you got to look to where it's coming from. A lot of these isolates, there's some questions about that, although I'm really interested in the THC isolates that dissolve in water for those mocktails, which hopefully we can be doing in some lounges here in California at some point. But let's move into California as we talk about the problems with pot and pot businesses in this new recreational legal tax and regulate scheme. For that, we go to Grover Beach, where we heard this week that, and we'll see in another video, that some folks are not happy about the property values going down because of marijuana businesses. we've seen research to the opposite of that.
Yeah, the contrary.
In fact, it's driving up prices in Denver so much that it's causing major problems in housing. So, and this is another problem, is that because of the belief that the gold rush, the green rush, is going to be happening, everybody's trying to get into the business. So landlords are, of course, taking advantage of that. And we see it in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is one of the worst. But it's definitely happening all over. So let's check this one out.
KSBY News starts right now.
Thanks for joining us for the news at 11. I'm Karina Corral.
And I'm Richard Gerhardt. Some businesses in Grover Beach are relocating, claiming new marijuana businesses are pushing them out. KSBY's Kelsey McFarland looked into it, and she joins us live with the story. Kelsey?
Yeah, Richard, if you drive through this industrial area near Farrell Road and Highland Way, you'll see several signs that look like this, advertising that the building is ready to be rented out. Now, this particular sign is in front of what used to be the gym, but the building was bought out to start a cannabis business.
The gym is in a new location on Highland Way. Inside, Corinne Furness and her husband are still putting together gym equipment.
Grover Beach is not the best place if you're trying to relocate a business.
They say finding a new space was nearly impossible.
We were almost out of business.
The gym was previously on Farrell Road. That space now sits empty. It was bought up with the intention to start a marijuana business, but the owners were never awarded the permit to do so. Still, Furness says they couldn't afford to stay there.
For the price that they sold it for, we knew that we weren't going to be able to stay.
She says rising rent is now a trend in the area.
Say anywhere from 85 cents to $1 a square foot. Everything went up to at least $2.50 a square foot. But there's many other business owners that have been in their building for years, 30 years, 20 years,
of that neighborhood.
or longer, and they just
rich white cannabis businesses coming
It also happened to Epic Entertainment.
The cannabis business bought the entire center that we were in, and we were on a month to month at that point, and so they said that we needed to leave.
Anthony Salas almost took his business to another city before settling on a Grand Avenue location. He needs to sublease the space to afford it.
Everything is more expensive, especially just being on Grand makes it more expensive.
The two joined several other local businesses that closed or relocated, leaving vacant space.
And at least 2 other businesses have taken their business to other cities, like KB Horseshoes, which is now in Santa Maria, and Central Coast Refreshments, which is now in San Luis Obispo. Live and local in Grover Beach, Kelsey McFarland, KSBY News.
We've reached out to the city of Grover Beach tonight, but a spokesperson was not available for comment.
Yeah, Vegan Metro. Nothing better than sativa before the gym and indica afterward. That should help business. Yeah, they should team up. They should team up. There's actually cannabis nutrition companies that are doing just
CBD.
that with cannabis. No, with THC too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They have pre-workout, post-workout, and there's THC I think involved in all of it actually. But yeah, no, there's companies doing that. It's definitely part of the market. It's highly effective for recovery and in pain, as you will see. I mean, as is indicated by the Gupta. So let's go on our next California story.
New at 6 tonight, complaints about the smell from pot farms in Santa Cruz County are prompting more restrictions on outdoor grows. But growers say this could shut down their businesses. Action News reporter Bianca Beltran has details from Santa Cruz.
Party capital.
Love it or hate it.
It's like having skunks next door.
The smell from nearby pot farms drives Bob crazy.
During the heat wave, we had to leave our windows locked, closed for about a week when it was 95 and 105 degrees. I unfortunately neglected to close up my camper. It took me about 2 to 3 weeks to get the stench out of the camper.
The odor also puts the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors in a tough spot.
Yeah,
The 400-foot setback from homes is
Come on, our
proposed to
whole
help
house
with the
to smell
stench,
it.
but growers say
One of
it
those
would put them out
cannabis
of
leaf
business.
hanging from my mirror.
400-foot setbacks will
Because
make
you're
it
a white
so
guy,
that
you can't.
many, if not most of these qualifying parcels and people won't be able to participate in the legal market and will be now pushed into the illegal market.
Pat's Cannabis Trade Group created these maps using gray
Jukebox
to
Steve
show
in
the areas
Periscope.
that
Welcome,
would
brother.
be excluded from outdoor cultivation. The supervisors struggled to reach an agreement, but with temporary permits expiring soon, they decided to move forward.
And this is a learning process. So as information comes in, this ordinance will shift. It will change. It will grow in a way that the community can get behind as we progress.
Bianca Beltran reporting for us tonight. Timing is important. Many cannabis businesses have temporary permits that will expire within 30 days. They need the county to get the cannabis licensing program going so they can be in compliance with the state. The ordinance will return to the Board of Supervisors on May 8th and go into effect in June. The county will also keep a log of outdoor complaints to track the problem.
Okay, this is BW. Yeah. I'm obsessed with the chat right now. Good conversations going on in the chat. I want to. Phil Britton says all the industrial zones in Denver, Longmont, Boulder are pot warehouses now. Rents have skyrocketed. Artists, mom and pop businesses have all moved on. This is the Colorado's newest gold rush. Yeah, people are flocking there. Businesses are flocking there. Prices are skyrocketing all over in legal cannabis states, and you cannot find housing. They're not building enough housing in Denver
or
anywhere. Because people are, I don't know where they're coming from.
From all the illegal states.
It ain't from south of the border.
No.
It's people that are like trying to, it's a lot of folks that it's true. It's people that are interested in cannabis, either for medicinal reasons. They want to get in the business. They see the opportunities. They have skills. They don't want to be arrested doing it in their state. So they move to Colorado where it's legal. What could be better? It's going to be fantastic.
But they can't have a place to live.
Now, Phil, I believe Phil has reminded us there are some living wages going on in bud tending there, Phil, if I'm not mistaken. Not seeing that all over, but certainly it's a problem. The housing and the rents are a problem. The potification. Not potrification. Potification.
Yeah.
The potification. Exactly. Straight out of NPR and Twitch. Nothing like the fresh smell of cannabis in the morning.
Right.
I think one of those one of those air fresheners in your car. You have the pine tree.
Yeah.
A cannabis leaf with the smell of and strain specific.
Yeah. Well, that way, if you ever get pulled over and your car smells like weed, well, of course it does. I have a weed smelling air freshener.
It was terrible. Zoc says it was terrible. I had to smell it. It was the end of the world. I tell you, my poor car, my RV for a week. It smelled like weed in there. Damn.
I know.
All them terpenes
Yeah, and
floating
Vegan
around
Metro noticed that they didn't interview one person in the entire story that said they liked the smell.
Right. And there
Definitely
are people.
Slanting.
People. I love the smell of cannabis.
There are people who like the smell of cannabis. I think everybody in this, all 16 of us.
All 16 of us love. If you love the smell of cannabis, let us know. And let us know where you're watching on. We got some folks joining in the Periscope and over on D-Live. There are some folks watching on D-Live, getting some thumbs up. Thanks, everybody. Do that. Re-steam. Let us know. We do this every week on DC420 LA on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitch. Steam it. And Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network over there on weedtv.com. We were their first live streaming show, and now they've added an amazing amount of content over there, news shows, culture shows. So they're getting better and better coming out of Vegas there. So that's very exciting. Thanks, everybody, for joining in and joining in the chat. We can see most of the chats. If you're in Facebook, drop a chat in there. Let me see if it works in our Resteam. As we move on to our next California, I believe we're still in California. Let's see where we go.
Medicinal marijuana has been used for years to treat a variety of ailments, including pain relief. Now, some UCLA researchers are pondering whether pot could help ease people off opioids. CBS 2's Joe Kwan spoke with one of the doctors leading the effort.
Cannabis probably can certainly help with
pain.
But UCLA professor of psychiatry, Dr. Timothy Fong, says it's unclear what type of pain marijuana could treat.
For instance, back pain, headaches, stomach pain.
Doctors have been prescribing opioids to treat those types of pains and other kinds.
Opioids relieve suffering, physical and mental.
But whether pot can do the same thing is something Fong says UCLA's new cannabis research initiative hopes to one day find out.
How can we use cannabis in a way to, number one, protect individuals from addiction, and number two, potentially use it as an idea to reduce the scourge and negative consequences from the opiate epidemic.
Dr. Fong is an addiction specialist. He says right now researchers at the university are just talking about ways to study those things.
You can eat it, you can smoke it, and with that in mind, there are a lot of very interesting potentials that can be used for it.
One doctor on the team has suggested using this vaporized cannabis to conduct a study with patients who have been using opioids for a few months.
I'm in.
Vaporized technology.
Well, no, I
might
haven't
have
used
the ability
opioids,
to
but I'm in on a vapor test.
Consistent dosage. It might also be regulated easier.
Dr. Fong says the biggest hurdles to getting that idea into a lab would be time, money, and staff, but he does expect to start a study this year. He says the limited research that does exist shows
THC and other cannabinoids in the body can be pretty effective for pain control.
the same limited research also found marijuana users can also fall prey to the same problem associated with opioids.
We know for certain it can cause addiction.
So he says whether weed can wean people off opioids is still far from answers.
Maybe one day we'll know.
Okay, that is an uninformed doctor.
At UCLA. At UCLA.
You can get addicted to pot, you know.
Uh-huh.
Are you fucking kidding me? You know, what is that? What is that called? Is that called a straw man? What is that called? I'm always confused about those. What is that argument? When they come up with a completely nonsensical comparison, you know, to compare
a lie?
Yeah, but you know, to make it's an argument. You know, when you make the argument, they're like, oh well, if you know, opiates are addictive, and we know that there are studies that say marijuana is addictive, but the two are ridiculous. There's no number one, pot is how many people have died from pot?
0.
And what's the opioid statistic?
More than 42,000 in 2016.
How many a day?
More than 115.
We know that because
over there, aren't they over there?
Where are they? We need them. We need to find our postcards.
They're over there and over there.
Because we have postcards.
Yeah. But that's
yeah,
not
so
all. You know, there are more than 90,000 deaths a year related to alcohol.
Right, every day.
And 42,000 related to opioid problems.
I think coffee is more addicting, Jocelyn.
So, that they call the opioid thing a crisis, but don't call alcohol a crisis.
Right.
It's sort of weird to me.
Oh, they're advertising. They're still advertising that shit.
That's weird.
At least they stopped advertising cigarettes. You know, why doesn't, if alcohol, you know, if alcohol is, because it is, I mean, it's bad. It's worse. It's worse than everything.
People don't want you to tell them not to drink alcohol.
Now let's do that. Let's deschedule cannabis and schedule alcohol.
Yeah.
Because it has no medicinal benefit. Definitely is addictive. And what's the third one? Potential for abuse.
Right.
No medicinal benefit. And there's a third one. I forget what it is. But those are the logical fallacies. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. That's not because I'm high. That's because I went to Los Angeles Unified School District. That's why.
I didn't bother to look.
And use my white privilege to get out with a 3.9. By basically just showing up. So, but yeah, the logical fallacy. That's right. So, yeah, that guy is like, well, we don't want any. And there was last week, it was one of the, I think it was a lawmaker that says, we don't want a bunch of marijuana addicts. We don't want people going to become marijuana addicts. But I'd rather have a bunch of marijuana addicts, if it was addictive, psychologically or whatever, than fucking
psychologically
Oxycontin
addictive.
heads.
Because I want to feel good. I want to feel normal and capable. Anyway.
Oxycontin heads are assholes.
Yeah.
Every fucking one I've met.
Oh yeah, everyone.
Every fucking one I've met.
It makes them more aggressive.
I have never met anybody that's on on opioids For pain, that
Jerks.
is a nice person.
Jerks.
I swear to God.
All assholes.
I mean, the ones that are on it long term anyway. You know, I mean, it does, and like he says, even the Ganja Gupta even says it changes your brain.
Yeah.
It's like that doctor said at the beginning of that. Well, you know, it alleviates suffering and fucks up your brain. So yeah, why not? Take it. Sounds good. All right, what's next?
Yeah, next.
Oh, look at this. Another cannabis candidate coming up, guys. We've got our election here, or we got a primary here in June, right? 5 weeks. The battle of the progressives trying to for number two.
Which progressive is going to vie for the spot?
But this, oh no, okay, yeah, let's do this one first. We're going to do this one first because since I've set it up. But this is coming out of New Mexico. This is a New Mexico candidate because apparently legal cannabis is on the ballot.
38 years ago, I was one of the first cancer patients to use medical cannabis here in New Mexico. I'm Jeff Apodaca. As governor, I'll expand this program to create jobs, grow our tax revenue, and fund year-round preschool. It's time we turn New Mexico around.
Brew Buds, based in Las Vegas, is making K-cups filled with coffee, cocoa, and teas, all infused with cannabis oil. Some customers say it helps them settle their mind and relax, but enjoying a
Ganja grinds.
The K-cups cost $7 a piece and are only available in some states where cannabis is legal.
It's an expensive cup of coffee.
No, it isn't. Just to be clear. Yeah, I suppose if you're getting a cup of Joe for $3, but it's certainly if you're doing a Frappuccino or any of those big cups. That was, yeah, we've seen that story before, but they've done another one. The company must have a good PR team. And quite frankly, I love coffee and cannabis. I think it's one of the better highs. We had, what did we have up in Vancouver? It was that, it was like
Stumptown?
It wasn't Stumptown, but it was a 60 milligram cannabis infused
coffee. It was
coffee.
great.
It was great.
It was fantastic.
This is fantastic. I don't know how we got into Coffee Town, but New Mexico, we've got a political ad for cannabis and registering. So we know wherever it's on the ballot, it wins. And we're going to see in our Midwest roundup or roll up that it's hot and happening in Michigan. Let's finish out California. Nope.
Utah Democrats.
Sorry, not California. Where am I? Here it is. Yes, California.
The sale of recreational marijuana is good for the California economy and does not appear to be increasing the crime rate. That is, according to the San Diego County residents that were surveyed in a new public opinion poll. The poll was commissioned by the Union Tribune and 10 News.
The thing I thought was interesting is a lot of people said they didn't notice any increase in crime. Some people said they saw what they thought to be a decrease in crime. Not sure what that's based on, but people aren't saying, oh my God, it's led to a change in crime.
Almost half of the 600 participants said that legalization has so far been good for society, and 43% said that cannabis is generally good for a person's health. A smaller sampling from that poll found that 20% of respondents said that they went to school or work after using cannabis.
Based on the 600 people that were polled, a whole lot of people are using a whole lot of weed. Whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, it really shows up. A couple times a year, 22%. A couple times a week, 20%. Daily, 21%.
The data also says that 49% of respondents think legalized marijuana is a good thing for California society, compared to 22% who believe it's made no difference at all, and 20% who think that it's a bad thing. The survey found that 57% believe that legalization has been good for the California economy, and 9% said it's been bad. The poll also showed that 44% of respondents believe that marijuana sales have affected the crime rate, as opposed to 23% who said that it curtailed crime. On the controversial matter of whether marijuana affects a person's overall health, 43% said that it's good for users, and 25% said it's bad. For the San Diego Union Tribune, I'm Laura Hockley.
Thanks, Laura Hockley. Yeah, the cops. Well, you know, who trusts cop statistics anyway? But I'm sure there's official statistics coming out at some point with regards to crime rates. I guess that this is purely kind of falls in the anecdotal evidence category. But polls are, you know, we're all going on polls right now. So at least it's in the right direction. I find it interesting that if I added that up correctly, maybe that doesn't, because I'm no math genius either. But
USD.
What was it, like 20% weekly, 20% daily, 20% monthly? Is that all different people, or does that add up to 60% of the people who are smoking weed every day, or I don't know? And going to work, 20% going to work or school high. I think that's higher.
That they admit.
Yeah. Because experienced cannabis users can function completely well and fully working. Not that, you know, I've heard.
Well, if it's like, okay, I've used Vicodin in my life because I've needed Vicodin prescribed to me in my life. I've never bought Vicodin illegally and used it in that way. But when it was prescribed to me and I needed it, I was in acute pain at the time. I took the Vicodin and I didn't feel woo-woo or excited or high or stoned or anything like that. But as my pain was subsiding and I still took the Vicodin, I definitely felt woo-woo and high, and it was awesome. And I stopped taking the Vicodin.
Would you drive?
No.
After that?
No.
I mean, how'd you get home?
Well, by the time it was, I was home, first of all.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was for work. You know, people take that shit for work.
No, I was home. This was when I had tendinitis in Hawaii.
But yeah, I mean, you'll load up on Vicodin and Oxys and head out on the road and go to work. And
Drivers, Teamsters,
yeah,
can have all that stuff. No problem.
And that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That they allow people to have prescriptions for OxyContin and opioids and drive.
Yeah.
And they freak out if somebody gets
has cannabis in their system.
Yeah, fails a fucking that, you know, drivers. That's what someone in the chat actually said. Can, you know, or made a comment on one of our videos, is that will people, when they deschedule it, will people at jobs, will drivers be able to go home and smoke at night, you know, and still go to work? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We should work for that and push for that, because it's ridiculous. You can go home and get fucking hammered.
Yeah.
And go to work with a goddamn hangover, completely fucking still baked the next morning and suffering.
Lit.
And or throw down a bunch of OxyContin and drive around, or Vicodin, no problem. But if you fail a drug test for pot, you know, so I think descheduling is going to be a big impact on changing all of that, right? That's really
also they're going to have to develop better tests for cannabis to be able to see when it was in your system. But, you know, there are those who say that it stays in your system for so long is because we need it.
Right.
Because your system needs it. It's supposed to stay in your system because you have an endocannabinoid system that needs nourishment, and, well, you still have it in your system because you're nourishing your endocannabinoid.
And it's an adaptogenic, so it goes to the cells that need it, that need whatever it needs. So it was, I believe Phil made the interesting point that most of this CBD oil and the that's being used around the country, the good stuff, has up to 0.3 THC in it.
3%.
3% rather. 3% THC. So you are getting perhaps the activation of the CBD in that instance. You know, as opposed to 100% CBD, you are getting a little bit of THC.
Some people are saying, I mean, I read a lot of stuff in the chats. I read on cannabis oil success stories and the Green Oil Machine and Whole Plant Access for Autism. And these folks are doing some, breathtaking studies on themselves. And I read what they're doing and what their reactions are. And that's all anecdotal, but it sure seems to me that a lot of people are finding that you need even just a little bit of THC to get the CBD to really kick in and do some good shit.
I think that's probably the case. The whole plant, whole plant is really the key. Real quickly, straight out NPR on Twitch. We are going out over Twitch. We are going out over DLive, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, and WeedTV.com. Make sure you're subscribing, get notifications, and do whatever thumbs up thing you do over there on whatever platform you're watching on. And get in the chat. Let us know you're watching and appreciate the information. Share it with your friends. Do whatever to help us out to get this information out. Like straight out NPR says, May 16th, judge in Florida will decide whether or not patients in Florida will be permitted to use marijuana flower. They can only vape for now. So that's another thing that's going on, is a lot of these people are saying medical marijuana is coming to our state. No, it's just CBD oil.
Yeah.
But like, you know, you can have the flower, but you can't smoke the flower. That's the law they're trying to do in, what is it, Pennsylvania? I think they're trying to allow flower, but you can't smoke it. You can only vape it. That might be what happens in Florida, but don't tell anybody when you go home that you're smoking it.
That's right.
And hopefully nobody turns you in, your friends, that you're only vaping it, which is probably the better way to do it anyway. That's not a great vaporizer. I'd love to get it. But it's, you know, those things
we have a bigger house.
They're like $400.
Yeah.
The good vaporizers, you know. But it was a really cool one. Maybe we'll get somebody, get him to send us one. We'll test it out. Yeah. So, that's basically what seems to be happening in Utah. As we finish out our Western block, this story came across the wire today about Utah Democratic Party is now on board cannabis.
Utah Democrats weighed into medical marijuana this weekend at their state party convention.
Yeah, is medical cannabis becoming partisan? Should it be partisan?
Brian Malahy is on the story for us. And Brian, how far are Democrats willing to go on this issue?
Well, the platform proposal is certainly much shorter than the Utah Medical Marijuana Initiative, which voters will vote on in November. This is the initiative, 28 pages worth. This is the Democrats' proposal, one line on one page, but this could go further than this.
We know that the research is there.
Debate kindled across the state. Medical marijuana. For it, against it, and under what circumstances?
It's a political issue because people are making it a political issue.
Utah Democratic Party Chair Daisy Thomas says it should be between patient and physician, not political. But the party here at the Salt Palace tomorrow is poised to take a political position.
So why do this?
Because there are enough of our members that need this. They needed to survive their day.
This wording could become part of the Democratic Party platform, the right of individuals to use whole plant medical cannabis under the direction of a medical professional. A leader of a medical marijuana support group says raw flowers can be smoked or vaporized and work faster to ease seizures or nausea.
Do you think medical marijuana should become a political issue where political parties take positions on it?
No. I don't think it's necessarily a party issue. I just think, you know, it's a personal issue.
But Pete thought the Democrats' language seemed reasonable. Jennifer and her friend Melissa, not certain.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a hard one.
The governor and the Utah Medical Association have taken positions against the medical marijuana initiative. The LDS Church First presidency made a statement that seemed in opposition, but the chair of the Utah GOP says the party hasn't taken a position, and he doesn't think it should be partisan. Back to the news desk.
I believe the California Democrats, didn't we do that as well? Didn't they do that here in their party, in their platform?
I don't think they went that far.
That's an addition to the Utah Democrats. That story said they were going to vote on it. They did vote on it. They voted on it yesterday, and they did put that into the platform. So that happened, and they're going to be voting on, and I'm going to say it right here and right now, that's going to pass in Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say it. I'm going to venture to say that every marijuana bill that is put up this year is going to pass. That's a pretty bold statement. Because there's a few of them.
It's a green year, I'm telling you. This is it.
And I'm completely talking out of my ass. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. And I know we're actually let's move into the Midwest, because that's really the big story out of state laws this week. is, of course, out of Michigan, where was reported that there's enough signatures that they collected to get recreational marijuana on the ballot in November. Now, there's some, there was some controversy, there was some issue. There was a move by the Republicans to possibly get it through the legislature before putting it on the ballot, because they know people are going to come out and vote for it on the ballot in November as a way to sort of sideline millennials and progressive voters or other voters that would vote for marijuana. And maybe that's the only reason they would go to the polls. And while they're there, they'll probably vote for somebody more progressive than a conservative. I don't know what I guess. But that apparently is not going to work. And that, so it's not, and it turns out there were enough signatures collected. So let's take a look at some of our stories in the Midwest block. And there's a whole bunch of stories on Michigan. I'll probably skip them, most of them, because there's literally a shitload.
Tonight, the fight over marijuana in Michigan.
The decision over whether the drug should be legal in our state may soon be up to you. The State Board of Canvassers will decide on Thursday if the issue will be on the November ballot. Michigan's Elections Bureau says a group pushing for marijuana legalization does have enough signatures. So under the proposal, there would be age restrictions and limits on where you can use it and how much you can carry.
A lot of people have strong feelings on this issue, as you might imagine. We want to know, do you think marijuana should be legal in Michigan? Go to WXYZ.com/vote. Tell us what you think. Our big story coverage begins now with 7 Action News reporter Amira David showing us what's inside this proposal.
That's right, Dave, Glenda, I have that petition right here. Advocates tell me over 300,000 people signed this in support. They are hoping it will move them one step closer to putting marijuana in the same category as alcohol.
Hopefully this will be up on Thursday.
Matt Abel is hoping this week will mark history. He's part of a coalition of organizations that helped write this. The language for the proposed legislation the Board of Canvassers will consider on Thursday. This is the closest recreational marijuana has come to being brought to Michigan voters, and the closest the state has ever been to joining the 8 other states that already have it legalized. Potentially on the November ballot is a law that would, like alcohol, authorize adults 21 and older to use and transfer it, allow carrying and use of 2.5 ounces at a time, allow for use in private areas with owner authorization, and prohibit use in public areas. No shopping centers or grocery stores or anything like
Eventually, we're hoping there will be private lounges, clubs, and things of that nature where people could go to consume it.
But it won't come without its fair share of debate. Some point out the jobs and tax revenues it would create. But Abel says it's more about social justice.
It gives a lot of people criminal records, which prevents them from college loans. It prevents them from employment in many industries.
And a safer choice for easing stress or pain.
Marijuana substitutes for other more harmful substances, for alcohol, especially these days for opiates.
But Matthew Yaskold of Healthy and Productive Michigan argues it's just the opposite, saying it could be a gateway drug.
Heroin addicts don't just wake up and decide to start using heroin
really
one day. They
unhealthy.
Progress to it.
Yeah,
and he worries about the safety of less researched products like edibles that could have a higher THC.
We're looking at
he needs to go vegan.
Highly synthetic. It's been extracted from the plant matter and turned into an extract oil.
It's the gluten.
And that's an example of the conversation, intense conversation we're going to see play out over the next several months, especially if it moves forward on Thursday. In fact, a big debate is already framing up on Thursday between leaders for legalization and against legalization.
Flaming
it's taking
up.
place at the Pontiac Country Club. If you're interested in attending, we're going to post details for you at WXYZ.com.
WXYZ.
For now, I'm David, 7 Action News.
WXYZ was all over this fucking story this week. They had like 4 stories, and I'm not going to play all of them. Straight out of NPR, that Michigan vote will pass by more than 80%. So I feel pretty good about my prediction there. Daily Dope, I know you're driving. I don't know if I picked that up on your podcast, if you had made a prediction about that. But let's move on to... I want to do. This was a big story. It's a big story in Michigan. I want to play another video from Michigan, another channel. This is from WOOD.
Michigan could soon join fewer than a dozen states that have legalized the recreational use of marijuana. The signatures have been collected, and later this week, the Board of Canvassers is expected to approve putting the issue on the November ballot.
Legalizing marijuana for recreational use in Michigan comes with taxes to improve our roads and schools. 24-hour News 8's Heather Walker is looking at what else would come with legalization. Heather?
Well, if this passes, it will be regulated much like the way that we regulate alcohol. You'll be able to legally use it as long as you're 21 and follow the laws. What does Michigan look like under this?
Essentially, it's going to look a lot like the same Michigan today, only people are going to stop being arrested for small amounts of possession and consumption.
Josh Hovey is the spokesperson for the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol. It's a pro-recreational marijuana group. We met with him in Lansing to help us break down what a yes vote would mean. So passing this doesn't mean that there's going to be pot shops at every corner.
No, this is going to be a very strictly licensed process.
The State Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs would oversee the marijuana businesses, and local communities could keep dispensaries out through zoning. But for the communities that allow them, 30% of the taxes generated from the sales would go back to those communities. The other 70% would be equally split between roads and schools.
That'll help fill the holes in our roads.
If it passed, adults 21 and up could legally possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana and have up to 10 ounces in their home. But you wouldn't be able to drive under the influence. In fact, you could only use the drug at home, not in a public place.
There's no one going to be smoking in the park or walking down the street, lighting up a joint or anything like that, no.
Under the proposal, recreational marijuana will have a 10% excise tax on top of 6% sales tax, potentially bringing in millions of dollars in revenue to our state. Reporting live in studio, Heather Walker, 24-hour News 8.
And that, of course, was before the commission came back. And here is the last story out of Michigan from CBS.
Michigan voters will decide in November whether or not to allow recreational marijuana after officials certified there were enough signatures to put the measure on the ballot. Here are some things you need to know, according to the AP. Michigan would be the first state in the Midwest to legalize the drug, too. People 21 and older can possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana and grow up to 12 plants at home. Analysts suggest recreational pot sales in Michigan could exceed nearly $1 billion a year, and the revenue is supposed to go towards education, roads, and cities and counties with marijuana businesses. Matt Yurus for CBSDetroit.com.
So CBS offered 36 seconds on their reporting this week about the Michigan marijuana bill coming up for recreational, which looks like most of the folks in our chat think it's going to pass. And 2.5 ounces. We're only allowed an ounce in California. So that's interesting. And it sounds very much like a tax and regulate scheme that we're going to be doing. So, oh, sorry for sharing a lighter.
It's okay.
So there you go, Michigan. Looking forward to looking to vote for recreational marijuana in November. Good on ya. Good on you, Midwest. Let's see if you can help out Ohio. Oh no, you know. Oh yeah, that's it. Let's. That was CBS. Let's see what you can do for Ohio.
A few weeks ago, we told you about a Canfield doctor who'd been approved to prescribe medical marijuana.
The implementation of medical marijuana in Ohio is 5 months away now. Reporter Dan Marcel breaks down what you need to know about medical marijuana in the Valley.
Well, guys, the practice belongs to Dr. Rajendra Karola. He is the first doctor within the Valley to be able to recommend medical marijuana. However, this approval comes amid months of state officials questioning whether or not the September deadline will even be able to be met and the program could even get up and running. But regardless of when this program begins, for this doctor's office, it's the chance to ease a crisis.
As soon as everybody's heard about it, they've been calling, wanting to get in.
Jennifer Rich is a clinical coordinator at the Northeast Behavioral Health in Canfield.
Dr. Carolla did not want to appear on camera today, but he says he and the others are excited.
It's a completely new thing for the doctor, for our office, and really anyone in the area.
Jennifer is hopeful the practice.
But don't tell anybody it's me.
Alternatives to opioids.
There are so many people on a daily basis that are touched by this epidemic that have lost loved ones. I've lost loved ones, several. It's a nightmare.
Medical marijuana patients will register with the program this coming July. They'll need to have at least one of 21 medical conditions, including Alzheimer's, HIV, cancer, or PTSD to qualify. They'll be able to pick up their medical marijuana at dispensaries anywhere in Ohio. In Canfield, Dan Marcel, WKBN 27 First News.
Well, a medical marijuana bill making its way through the State House would eliminate the cap on THC in cannabis oil. A Senate committee voted Monday to advance the legislation. It would also exempt cannabis oil from sales tax. Manufacturers say the bill would help create a large enough market for medical marijuana sales.
That was Iowa. Iowa. Cracking the ice. Cracking the ice in the Midwest.
Nose in the tent.
Nose in the tent. Michigan. Come on, Michigan. All right, let's move into the East as we round up the show, folks. It's been DC 420 LA.
Oh, awesome.
This is our last block. We're going to go into the East Coast. Not a lot happening down south.
2-hour show. That's good.
Although in Florida, I know we're getting some great information about Florida. You've got, dispensaries opening, and we got 100,000 frickin' patients now on the register down in Florida, so that's exciting. But not a lot of news in those Sinclair stations down there coming out this week. So we're gonna skip our southern block. Plus, I want to get to Ganja Gupta. So let's go into the East Coast, where there was big news actually this week along this recreational front. Vermont is looking at action. So let's start up in Vermont in our Eastern block here at DC 420 LA, the Week in Weed. Subscribe, get notifications, tell your friends, like us, share us, thumbs up us, re-steam us. Do it all. Do it all. Get this information out. We love to do it. We love to do. We love the topic, and we love the cannabis space.
We like to spread the knowledge about cannabis and how it can help people in all walks of life, facing all sorts of troubles.
And we have fun doing it here from our home in Los Angeles, California, the cannabis capital of the world, from our little cabin in the woods in the hippie enclave of Mount Washington, high above the beautiful downtown Los Angeles.
And yes, we are unemployed.
And we are unemployed
right
and still smoking weed.
Yeah.
Just so Bill O'Reilly is aware.
Yeah.
There we go.
Unemployed.
I'd like to see the list of 21 things. Is that of what? I'm not sure what that is referring to. Oh, of what you can use. Yeah, that's there. Those are always fluctuating in different states. Let's move into the East, and as Vermont has legalized or decriminalized now cannabis, they're moving quickly and considering the money.
I love Vermont.
Marijuana is legal in Vermont. Medical marijuana, that is. But on July 1st, adults will be able to possess up to 1 ounce and grow their own plants without a prescription. But there are rules to recreational use.
If you're over 21, you'll be able to grow 2 flowering plants and 4 immature plants.
Kelsey Rapp of Green State Gardener expects the cannabis gardening gear business to boom, thanks in large part to Vermont's lawmakers.
I think Vermont is taking all of these legislative steps to try to bring this out from the underground and to sort of make it a market and an industry that is beneficial and that we can drop some of the stigma that's been around the cannabis industry.
Thursday, the House Committee on Human Services heard from several in the cannabis dispensary community about a bill that includes a series of new rules for medical marijuana.
We are here to hopefully change a few things in the statute, one of them being asking for healthcare professionals to be able to verify openly for people to use cannabis. Instead of having a qualifying list of conditions, we'd like healthcare professionals to be able to suggest or recommend cannabis use to patients.
The goal of our committee is to ensure that Vermont's medical marijuana program continues to be one of the most well-run, safest programs, and that Vermonters get what they need.
The bill will be in committee for several more days. Meanwhile, Governor Phil Scott has a task force looking into ways to tax the drug on the free market, with a report expected at the end of the year. In Montpelier, Renee Wunderlich, NBC 5 News.
Renee Wunderlich, winner of the most unfortunate name of the day. As we move into,
maybe she's a good licker. Might be fortunate.
Where does that? Wonder what the genealogy is of that name.
Wunderlich.
Wunderlich. Let's move into. So there you go, Vermont. Tax and regulate that bugger, because apparently you can't grow anything yourself. You're gonna have to buy it somewhere else. Two plants? Was that what that was? That's ridiculous.
2 mature plants and 4 immature plants.
How are you gonna get high on that?
What do you mean?
How are you gonna cure cancer with 2 mature plants?
Yeah.
You ain't gonna do it.
Well, you're gonna have to break the law, and then you'll have to sue after you get arrested.
Speaking of which, love Phil. Phil is a wealth of knowledge. Phil Britton, Pirate Radio. Not sure what frequency. Somewhere in Colorado, somewhere from an RV. Savvy corn farmers in Ohio, DeKalb County, Wisconsin are interseeding their corn crops with pot, anticipating legalization in the fall. Fan-fucking-tastic. That's a revolutionary act right there,
That is civil disobedience just like this.
Go fucking get it. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Yeah, good news. Let's move into Connecticut.
Wunderlich is also a block of salt left out for cattle out west. That must be the genealogy. Thank you, Phil.
Joe Rogan, my new favorite guy on YouTube. Some great fucking interviews lately. Was there apparently there's this stuff called Jamba. It's a THC spray that I'm gonna start looking for. I guess apparently it gets you super high. Or it gets him super high, and he's a regular cannabis user.
Like us.
So I would like to try
to
check
like
that
guy
out.
at the beginning, you take one hit off the vape, and it gets you completely blitzed.
Exactly.
That's what we're looking for.
Hello.
For recreational.
For recreation, yeah. And another good point is
I take a tomato
Phil
seed of
made.
FICO twice a day for medicine.
That's right. Another good point Phil made was that recreational legalization is medical legalization. Because people end up using it, they will start feeling better in areas. I can guarantee it.
Well, if it makes you feel better, that's what, I mean, I think that's a lot of people like back in the day would think, oh, I'm addicted because I feel better when I'm smoking pot. I just feel better. And so you think, oh, I'm addicted because I feel better when I'm using cannabis. But now there's fucking medical evidence as to why you fucking felt better when you smoked cannabis. It's not because you're an addict, a fiend, a reefer madness, crawling weirdo. It's because it had medicinal things that it was doing for you. It was nourishing your endocannabinoid system and doing good stuff.
Anyway. You know whose cannabinoid system is very serviced right now are those 2 animals behind you.
Those pets, they're so fucking cute, you guys.
Oscar Grumbledore and Boo Boo Kitty.
They're so cute.
Very chill today. Boo Boo is always chill. She's taking her bolster position.
She is.
That's her favorite spot.
She was upside down for a little while. That was really cute.
And Oscar's been chilling behind you all show.
I know. Hey, do we have another story?
We do. I was just checking in with the animals. He needs a little lit. She was outside today. Let's move on to New Haven, Connecticut, where it's happening up there too.
Steph, thank you. The idea of legalizing recreational marijuana here in Connecticut will be debated at a forum in New Haven tonight. New Haven Alder wants to get the public's take on legalizing and taxing marijuana. Supporters say legalization could result in millions of dollars in much-needed tax dollars for the state every year. That event's set for 7 o'clock in the Hall of Records. That's on Orange Street, and it is open to the public.
Moving straight into Pittsburgh, PA. CBS, Pittsburgh.
Medical marijuana mistake. Local guy was tossed in jail after he tested positive. He's legally allowed to have medical marijuana. The trouble is he couldn't prove it. Christine D'Antonio joins us now with more on how this man's case could be a wake-up call for others. Christine.
You mean cops?
Yeah, Ken, the
Leave them
lesson
alone.
here that this man learned and that others who have medical marijuana cards are also going to be aware of is the fact that you really do need to have that on you at all times, especially when you're dealing with the courts. I spoke with this Spring Garden man today. He said that the morning that he went to court for what he thought was just going to be paying a fine, he didn't have his card with him. The judge in this case
going to court?
tested him for drugs. It
fucking
came back
moron.
positive for THC.
Wait.
And landed him here in the Allegheny County Jail for 10 days.
Deserves it.
First time ever in jail.
You're a
Never
dumbass.
going back. It was just horrible.
24-year-old Sampson Bailey Jr. is talking about the 10 days that he spent in the Allegheny County Jail, a time that he says he should have never spent here.
I wasn't expecting to be there at all. I was supposed to go to work.
Allegheny County.
In a couple hours, wasn't able to go to work. I missed 8 days, lost the job.
His time behind bars stems from medical marijuana. Bailey is a licensed, registered user of medical marijuana for several health conditions. On April 10th, when he appeared in court in front of a judge on an unrelated offense, the judge believed that Bailey was under the influence at the time, something that Bailey denies.
I was not high that morning.
The judge ordered a drug test on Bailey, which came back positive for THC.
Of course it did.
Bailey said he did not bring his marijuana card with him that morning.
That's the mistake.
And also did not know that he would be taking
Look at
a
him,
drug screen.
fucking hippie with
the
his
judge
water.
in the case put Bailey in the Allegheny County jail because he wasn't able to know if Bailey was telling the truth.
That's why they put him in
A simple
jail.
call to the Department of Health can verify that someone is active with the program.
Attorney Patrick Nightingale, who isn't related to
that,
Bailey's case, is a
special
partner at Cannabis Legal Solutions. He says that CBD oils can create a false positive test. He says this case is surprising.
But at least give this individual the opportunity to demonstrate to the court that, yes, I am a registered patient and I simply don't physically have my registration or my patient identification with me.
If that was a white kid, I guarantee.
Bailey was released from jail last Friday after his physician was able to provide the information that he does, in fact, have a medical marijuana card. We are live outside of the Allegheny County Jail. I'm Christine D'Antonio. Katie.
But if he was a poor white guy, he'd have gone to jail.
It's entirely possible. Entirely possible. But
You know?
I think
Smart poor people bring all their documents with them all the time.
when you're
saying.
when you're already up against the man, you need to make sure you've got all of your ducks in a row. And that was
Seriously.
they basically were able to use the fact that he didn't have his card with him to
Fascistized him.
to throw that selective book
Yeah.
at him. So unfortunate. Well, he'll be carrying that card with him all the time, won't he?
Tattoo his number on his arm.
And I guess depending on where you're getting your CBD, if it's got THC in it, it's quite possible you could end up with a positive. But
I don't suggest any drivers take CBD because of the testing.
Well, that's all, and that's also the you're going to.
Did I fuck up your angle?
Yeah,
I'm
you need
sorry.
to look over here, not up there, because that's 30
Sorry,
seconds.
I was
That's
ad-
30 seconds. I'm adjusting here,
I
and then
know,
you're
but I'm
seeing it up
adjusting
there.
my butt.
I know.
Let's just wrap it up so I can stand.
Wrap it up already. It's been 2.5 hours.
I'm dying over here. Jesus Christ.
Tilla's on a long weekend. She drank this weekend.
I drank.
That's
you
why you're in
guys.
pain.
That's not why. My ass hurts. Let's go.
All right, what's next? Let's see what's next in our Eastern roll-up.
Center City, Philadelphia will soon
Philly.
be home to a medical marijuana dispensary.
The Beyond Hello dispensary will open this fall at 1206 Sansom Street. The dispensary will carry a wide array of products, including pills, capsules, topicals, and cannabis-infused oils.
The first medical marijuana dispensary in Harford County is set to open for business today.
Maryland.
That's right. Rise Joppa will begin serving customers at 10 o'clock this morning. This is located off Pulaski Highway near Joppa Road. Rise Joppa is overseen by Green Thumbs, a national marijuana provider. This is the company's third location in Maryland. The company also operates dispensaries in Silver Spring and Bethesda. Medical marijuana use is legal in 29 states, including Maryland.
The first medical marijuana dispensary in Harford County is now up and running. Tracy Leong has more on what this means for Maryland and patients.
And more in depth with Maryland.
This is the third Rise dispensary to open up in Maryland and the 10th one in the country.
Rise Joppa's waiting room was packed with patients for their grand opening.
The patients of Harford County will no longer need to drive all over the state. We're now in their backyard and we're open for business.
Operated by Green Thumb Industries, a national cannabis cultivator and dispensary, the company hopes to offer patients who are suffering an alternative treatment.
We see people come in our stores all the time that are off of opioids for the first time in 10 and 20 years. So it's a huge benefit for people who are struggling with addiction with opioids throughout the country, and Hartford County's been hard hit.
Rise also has dispensaries in Silver Spring and Bethesda. Opening this location in Joppa helps the patients who live in the area.
Get the things that I need for my nerve problem, and it's never been accessible before, so having it close is very convenient.
Crystal Spicer uses medical marijuana to treat her chronic pain caused by nerve damage.
So using this helps me have less of those chemicals in my system, so a little less maybe liver damage and things like that to worry about, and it's more natural.
Rise offers various medical cannabis products for patients depending on their condition or preference.
You don't necessarily have to get high as a result of consuming the medicine. We are able to strip out the psychoactive ingredient THC and only have CBD in the product, so you can get medical benefits without actually feeling high at all.
There are currently 46 approved dispensaries in Maryland. I'm Tracy Leong reporting for WJZ.
In total, the state has issued 102 pre-approvals for dispensaries. The remaining companies are currently undergoing the next phase of the approval process.
The largest medical marijuana growing and processing facility in the country will be built in Massachusetts. Denver-based American will build a 1 million square foot cultivation facility in Freetown. They bought the site for almost $5 million from Boston Beer Works, which was planning a brewery at the site before the plans fell through.
No, nothing happening.
Okay, we're back on. Let me just.
My earball.
I removed. There's a shitload of news coming out of Massachusetts, so I'm trying to cut down on a couple of these videos. And that happened. But this is a lot of great chat happening in the chat, by the way. Lots of fun. A lot of new folks joining in.
Hi,
Thanks,
Angie.
everybody. Angie's here.
And Miriam joined us today, too.
Oh, cool. We had a great time playing
Timbuktu.
Cards Against Humanity on 420. That was blast.
That was fun.
And Angie, that was a great show with Angie. I still got to cut up the clips, but she had some great stuff to say. You can watch that whole show. You can watch us do our first dabs. Angie, me, and Chella on 420. That was a lot of fun. I was baked and would not have driven for the first hour.
Definitely.
After that, I was fine. But let's go into a couple of Massachusetts story, because one of the big issues is, of course, we've been talking about it, is property values going up, up, up. Everywhere marijuana shows up, that's what all of the reports and the anecdotal evidence is showing. But, apparently when you find it's not working where you are, you go to court. And this is what happened in this story.
A neighborhood dispute in Cambridge over marijuana. Businesses in Harvard Square say a dispensary is costing them millions of dollars, but the pot shop says not so fast.
Now the case is headed to federal court. As Boston 25 News reporter Crystal Haynes tells us, the first of its kind lawsuit could affect the budding industry in Massachusetts.
Healthy Farms is actually a medical marijuana facility, but this federal case could set precedent for the recreational marijuana industry. Crimson Galleria owner Raj Dahanda says ever since medical marijuana dispensary Healthy Farms opened last December in Harvard Square, his property value has been decreased by over $27 million, and his tenants have been adversely impacted.
The property values in other parts of the Harvard Square have gone up, but that's not true. about where I am because of the proximity of the marijuana dispensary.
In a first of its kind in Massachusetts, DeHonda and other property owners are suing the dispensary and nearly a dozen others in federal court under the RICO statute, which would triple the alleged damages to over $81 million. Healthy Farms attorney Emma Quinn Judge tells me there's no evidence that property values have been affected by her client's facility, and they are operating within state law.
It's also, I think, a real problem that a private person take a position that is contrary to the will of the voters and contrary to what everyone has agreed.
In addition to damages, the Cambridge neighbors are claiming Healthy Farms is violating federal law, and that supersedes state law.
Federal law
RICO
is the supreme law of the land, and it is federal law that should govern.
The case could have larger implications on the recreational marijuana industry, with pot shops set to open this summer.
They're not only alleging that my clients have injured the neighboring property values, but they're also asking the AG's office and the Department of Public Health to rescind all licenses for medical marijuana and to stop issuing licenses.
A motion to dismiss this case has been filed in court, and they are waiting to hear a judgment on that. Reporting here in Cambridge, I'm Crystal Haynes, Boston 25 News.
Well, that's some horse shit right there. Massachusetts recreational marijuana is you're not going to stop that in federal court. I'm sorry, or in court. You're not going to do it. Not going to happen. And this is just another reason why we have to get it descheduled, because these idiots that apparently don't know how to fucking make money in real estate.
Yeah.
When everybody else in the cannabis world, you're seeing, prices going up. Yeah, exactly. That's BS. All right. Phil, thank you so much. We're going to go into another couple of more stories out of Massachusetts in court. We're seeing cannabis in court, folks. This is not just the only way we're going after cannabis through legislature and through referendums and through direct vote. We're going through it taking it at the courts. As you saw right there, we have a anti-person going at the courts. Well, we've got some other court action in Massachusetts, and this is good news. This looks like good news. So let's check this story out.
Welcome back, everyone. So police have been scrambling to get high drivers off the road. The issue now taking on a new urgency after the legalization of marijuana.
It's no easy task, and now some say a high court ruling could make it harder. NBC Boston investigators have been covering this issue for more than a year now. Allie Donnelly joins us with the latest.
There is no widely accepted roadside drug test like there is for alcohol, and this state SJC ruling takes away a common tool police use to try and figure out if someone is driving high.
Stop! As troopers at this roadblock know, .08 for alcohol is too drunk to drive. But marijuana affects everyone differently, and there hasn't been enough scientific testing to prove how much is too much behind the wheel.
Doing a sobriety checkpoint.
With OUI drug cases skyrocketing in Massachusetts, police have been using every tool in their toolbox to get high drivers off the road, including the standard field sobriety test. But today's court ruling means police can't use measures like the eye test or walking the line as a pass-fail for marijuana.
It's not a game changer. It is a decision that will hamper our ability to deal with OUI that involves marijuana cases.
Walpole Police Chief John Carmichael says the ruling does still allow officers to use field sobriety tests to document a driver's balance, coordination, and mental sharpness, evidence they can use in court if a driver is charged.
What the officer sees, what he observes, what he smells, how the other person is reacting to the stop. So they'll still be able to do that.
State police are testing a roadside drug test now. We're waiting on those results. And departments across the state are pushing to get more officers trained as drug recognition experts. Allie Donnelly, NBC Boston.
Tonight, a federal lawsuit filed by neighbors of a medical marijuana dispensary in Cambridge could derail pot plans for the entire state. Cassie Arsenault joins us live with how a law meant to target organized crime could pose problems for.
That's the same RICO story. That's
Yeah.
just another coverage of it. So I'm gonna skip by that bugger. This let's just take
of recreational marijuana in Massachusetts are set to begin in July.
The only places that will likely have marijuana in stock are medical dispensaries, and they are currently operating. Right now, there are 22. Some medical marijuana dispensaries have not yet opened.
Hi, Angie. Love you.
Received priority in applying for recreational marijuana licenses, and that has some advocates worried. One of those people concerned joins me now. Michael LaTulip is a development director at the Massachusetts Patient Advocacy Alliance. Michael, thanks for coming back in. I break this down for me because this is a little confusing, okay? So there are some medical distributors of pot who have not yet started to operate, right?
Yes.
July is when we're supposed to be getting the medical, the recreational pot. What's the problem with
Genius,
saying, okay,
Vegan
these
Metro.
places that were
Great
cleared for
marketing.
medical distribution but
It's
haven't
my-
gotten it yet,
it's my
they
air
get to
freshener,
go to
dude.
the front of the line to do recreational pot?
Well, there's nothing essentially in these regulations that would mandate that these applicants ever end up serving the registered patients. And registered patients, you know, get a series of state-mandated benefits, like tax-free medicine. They get a separate
Oh, you mean the patients are going to get screwed when recreational cannabis comes to Massachusetts?
Times of shortage.
That hasn't happened anywhere.
Wow.
Who
Who knew?
And if we allow these facilities to essentially abandon those obligations, the registered patients in municipalities across the Commonwealth are not going to benefit from the medical
We're
program.
trying to do it again in
If you are
California.
A recognized patient who needs medical marijuana, the law should be protecting you to make sure that you get it before somebody who just wants to watch a movie.
Angie, meet Phil. Phil, meet Angie.
Saturday afternoon, right?
Yeah, so essentially what happened here is the commission
Cannabis Connection.
the law. So essentially the legislature had created a compromise bill, Chapter 55. In it, it says that priority licenses shall be given to dispensaries that are operational and dispensing for patients. What the commission has done essentially said we're going to give priority to those operators that are not operational and dispensing as well, which of course increases the pool of priority applicants.
So can they do both? Can they deliver recreational marijuana and also medical marijuana? Can they have two different client streams?
Yes, absolutely. Essentially, the law is the co-location of medical and adult use marijuana.
He's
which
the
is our preferred
Steve Bannon
option
of
in this
cannabis.
case. But what we're afraid of is
Millennial.
going to happen is essentially a lot of these
He used to be a goth.
facilities may abandon those medical
Now he's a
requirements
cannabis
because
advocate.
It requires a separate line. It requires that they save a portion of their supply for patients. And some of those mandated benefits may actually turn some of these facilities into adult use only facilities, and I think that would be essentially shocking to a lot of the municipalities that were expecting registered patients to get benefits from these facilities.
So
They will fuck you.
I have a medical prescription for vitamin E, right? I can buy my vitamin E and pay a little bit more money at just off the drugstore shelf, or I can go to my pharmacy, my pharmacist, and get my prescription vitamin E. This
I like
is
her
sort of
metaphor.
the same thing, except people are competing to get the vitamin E, right?
Yes, because we have such a lack of supply right now, unfortunately, we have 25 open marijuana dispensaries for patients as of today. But there's really a lack of supply, so that
He's got to get to his D&D game. Wrap it up, guy.
The regulatory
That's what I'm saying.
Process was essentially to have this patient supply safety net, which in times of shortage would ensure that at least 35% of the supplies were saved for medical marijuana patients so that they didn't lose access. If an adult use
I got a
facility
phone call to Oregon.
ends up
Would
connecting
take
with
care of
the
that
medical
problem.
marijuana virtual gateway, they're never going to be obligated to fulfill on that, state mandated requirement.
So what are you saying has to happen? What are you advocating? Change, or that people do to protect themselves?
Well, because, essentially things are already moving forward the way they're moving forward. I don't think we can stop the way the commission is rolling things out. What we're suggesting instead is that the commission mandates a timeline to open for the medical marijuana dispensaries that are awarded priority licensure, even if they're not operational and dispensing. So essentially requiring those non-operational facilities to have
I wonder what he
timeline
did
to
before
open
this.
for registered patients if they want to continue with their priority.
And I would imagine if you're a patient or you're caring for somebody who uses medical marijuana, Would you urge them?
And
to
she looks
call
like his
their
aunt.
lawmakers?
Yes, absolutely. I think now is the time.
It's like, it must have been bring your kid to work day.
And if you're a registered medical marijuana patient and you really want the state-mandated benefits, you expect tax
I'm a
medicine.
15th level paladin, and I must
Thanks so much
go.
for coming in. Great to see you.
Meanwhile, in
Voters
Shrewsbury,
in Shrewsbury giving the go-ahead for recreational marijuana businesses Monday night. The vote is leaving some residents concerned, while others think it will bring in more people and revenue into the town. Our Brittany Schaefer joins us live now to explain. Brittany?
Olivia, a lot of mixed emotions and opinions in Shrewsbury today.
Yes.
Some say it'll be a safety concern, while others say neighboring communities like Grafton and Worcester already allow the shops, so they might as well gain in the revenue too. Shrewsbury voters decide to allow recreational marijuana shops during Monday night's town hall meeting.
Article 2 put in place a regulatory framework
Hey, landlord,
permit
Periscope.
the operation of recreational marijuana facilities and allow 2 retail establishments to operate within the community.
97 people voted in favor and 78 were opposed. In 2016, Shrewsbury voted against a statewide ballot question legalizing recreational marijuana. The change leaving some surprised at last night's vote.
Being a no community and then making a decision to allow these dispensaries to come in, I think that's
Come to cannabis.
Some friction.
It's
Come to cannabis.
Sort of like the culture being torn apart, one little chip at a time. And we don't need our kids driving around stoned, running people over, and being kind of slow in the head.
It could bring other people in, and we have a great town.
Sounds like he's slow
Town
in the head.
manager Kevin
Have another beer,
Mizikar
bro.
says the shops could bring up to $200,000 in added revenue to Shrewsbury.
In addition to the 17% that will be levied by the state, an additional 3% that will come directly to the community.
I think it's going to make a big impact.
It's going to definitely be a positive influence, both financially and, physically.
But 15-year Shrewsbury resident John Peel says the cons far outweigh the pros.
And I'm just not a fan of it. I'd rather have them balance the budget in other ways. How about fire a couple people who are overpaid?
You know how many people die from
Ms.
falling
Carr
off a
says
ladder on the
next
roof?
step is to work with interested businesses.
A lot more than cannabis.
I think I would.
What's that? You know that statistic?
Yeah, it's
Oh, that's
not
right.
off
You're
a roof.
you're like the head of the safety.
I'm the
world.
safety queen.
What was that?
I think it's like 16,000 people a year die for falling off a ladder a year.
That guy was literally smoke weed every day, landlord. Very good. On Periscope. That guy was literally taking his life into his hands more than any other cannabis consumer of any age by being up on that roof. And then he started talking to a reporter.
Distracted.
Yeah. So it sounds like he's a little slow in the brain. But let's go to our last story, and then we're going to come back and say goodbye to all the great folks. What an amazing chat today.
Yeah, lovely chat, guys.
It's been a blast watching the chat and joining in. It's been going along the bottom. Down here, folks, the chat has been going along the bottom. It's been a great conversation. This is our last story for the day. This has been DC 420 LA, The Week in Weed. We're going to come back and wrap up after this story out of Virginia. This just came out today, I believe, about a medical marijuana bill making its way from in Virginia. This is WTKR.
I think I would have found my healing path a lot more quickly.
TJ Thompson says if he had been able to get medical marijuana from the VA, it could have really helped him.
If the VA would have told me, here's some medical cannabis, I wouldn't feel like a criminal when I have to go out and find it.
Now, a bill in Congress could help begin that process. The Medical Cannabis Research Act would expand federal research into medical marijuana or cannabis, including at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Thompson, a Navy veteran, says that could one day save vets money.
We don't want veterans to have to go through these routes, spending $200, $150 to get a recommendation to find out if marijuana will work with them when the VA is already there.
The bill has bipartisan support and recently picked up an influential Republican sponsor. Lawmakers discussed it today on Capitol Hill.
Our bill ends this logjam by opening access to cannabis research
and pursuing potential cures wherever we may find them.
And for Thompson, he says medical marijuana has saved his life and says it could help others.
Medical cannabis does work. It works in reducing suicide rates. It works in reducing opioid rates, which are two of the biggest plagues upon us as veterans.
That guy was much more believable than the guy on the roof.
Yeah. Just saying.
Just saying. That's all I'm saying.
My butt.
All right. The butt's sore. The butt is sore. We're hungry. We got to watch Ganji Gupta.
Ganji
Gupta. And we're going to come up. We're thinking that's just the name of the strain. Sanjay Gupta.
Yeah, Sanjay Gupta should be the name of the strain.
Is a great name for a strain.
A sativa dominant hybrid.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. With a little cardamom smell, a little...
Stop. Go on.
Okay.
I hope you guys have enjoyed the pets today and the chat.
The chat. We've had a lot of new viewers today. Welcome, everybody. If you're just joining in Periscope, you can rewind and watch the whole 2 hours. Or you can do that.
Put it on in the background.
And you can do that on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook. And you can't do it on DLive yet. They're still working out their processing.
They'll get there.
You can rewind it, but as soon as I stop streaming, DLive, you're done until they figure that out. They haven't gotten the processing down yet. But they have been getting the live streams out. So that's great to have a decentralized live streaming platform. If you're not on Steemit and if you're a streamer and you're sick of YouTube, you're sick of Facebook, Steemit is working out the issues. They have their problems, but you can be involved in those problems because it's democratic for the most part, kind of. But you can be involved in the development, and it's quite fascinating. It's quite interesting. And DLive is literally the only decentralized live streaming platform that I'm aware of. And it's pretty flawless. Once you get it set up, it works pretty good, I think. But once it stops, and they are working on getting those processed. I usually attach the YouTube to it afterwards. So that's my Steemit rant. We thank you all for joining us on DC 420 The Week in Weed. DC 420 LA, The Week in Weed. Follow us on all the socials. Join us here on Sundays, live at 4:20 Pacific every week. We've been doing this for almost a year now, Chell. This is great. I love it. The shows are getting better and better. We're getting bigger and bigger audiences. We're starting to reach that point where, I think we're going to start, exploding. I'm hoping. I'm hoping. And of course, weedtv.com has got us going. Wouldn't that be terrible if all of a sudden we were like,
Ruined.
Well, you want to be...
It's nice and intimate this way. It's nice.
We want to transition
I like it.
into the cannabis space, so maybe this will help.
I do. It's true. Well,
it's a lot of fun.
Everybody.
We enjoy doing it. If you do want to contribute, you can do that. There's ways to do it.
There's ways,
but otherwise, join us next week for sure, and tell people about our show. We have a lot of fun doing it. This has been a good one.
Yeah.
A lot of great contribution in the chat. Hope I didn't miss out on anybody. Thanks everybody in Twitch and Periscope, on DLive, on Facebook, watching on Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network, and of course on YouTube. Subscribe, get notifications, and we will, as long as they'll have us, we will see you next week on DC 420 LA. Wait, where are the cards?
Here.
Hold up the cards. The cards are coming.
Here.
The cards are coming.
You can write to your Congress members.
What is your email, Chella? CoachChella@gmail.com. Send Chella a note. We got one card. We got another design ready to go. We're going to come up with some other designs to send in. Move it a little closer. This is an opioid one. We talked about this last week. It's pretty cool. They're ready to go. Stamp them. Stamp and send. So we're doing a whole series of them, designing them. And they're going to be for you guys on DC 420 LA, The Week in Weed. Pot for peace.
Take care, everybody. Thank you. All right. We got it on.
I got it on. I was ready with the cue.
Get there. Good job, everybody.
See you next week.
Murderers keep murdering, the churches keep a-burning, the rapists keep a-raping, and the tide ain't turning. Uncle Sam, for all your power, things get worse every hour, it seems to me. helicopters. The problems of society were not caused by my friends and me. So hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone, Uncle Sam. Leave us pot smokers alone. How many innocent people gonna be imprisoned? We just peace and love and street puff and brotherhood freaks. A touch of Mother Nature never made nobody violent, never made nobody hate nobody or break nobody's peace. Since we've never been shown to be harmful, don't you tell me no lies with your caffeine, codeine, nicotine eyes. The cannabis ban is just recent, just since 1938 to re-legalize it, realize it. You made a big